From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio, this is 365 Sports. From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio, this is 365 Sports. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Day 2 of the NCAA tournament, the play-in games last night, 2 more tonight. We'll get to last night, we'll look at tonight, and also other nuggets when it comes to the men's basketball tournament. One with the women, the World Baseball Classic, and a lot of football news to get to. David Smoak with Paul Catalina. He's wearing the black shirt, and Craig Smoak wearing what is a hoodie with the blue shirt, and the formerly, it's been a while now, Texas Rangers, the world champions. The NCAA tournament play-in games last night. First game was Howard. They have, I think it's like 6 or 8 attempts to win in the tournament. They've never won. They did win last night with the win and get into the second round, and they will now be facing against number 1 seed Michigan on Thursday as Howard beat UMBC, Maryland, Baltimore County, 86-83. And then last night, UT with a last-second shot from Tremont Mark to beat NC State, in which was not a very pretty game to watch. Remember, they almost put 200 points up the last time they met. Mark now in his career, guys, has hit 4 buzzer-beating, minus 2-3 seconds left in the game shots, including one that was a half-court shot when he was playing, I believe, for Houston or Arkansas to beat Memphis. But UT does survive. More on that game in a minute, but UT does get to the next round against BYU.
Yeah, and that's an interesting matchup. You know, BYU hasn't been as good since they've had the injuries. They also hit that stretch during the season where they had maybe the hardest stretch of schedule that anybody did in the entire country, of the top of their league, just 5 games in a row, or 5 out of 6 with Oklahoma State, who's an improving team, like right in the middle of that. So it was, but I do think the matchup will be good. Texas, you know, they're okay. I mean, and last night they played gutsy. So did NC State, but Texas made the play at the end, and that's what mattered. NC State and Texas were kind of on similar paths and wound up in this game the same way, in that they had some really good things happen early in the season, but later, you know, just kind of took a turn for the I don't want to say for the worst, but for the mediocre, where you kind of had a good team, but you kind of had just a slightly above average team. But look, Texas showed last night that they can hang, and you know, BYU is a team that, while they have a couple of superstars, and we always talk about AJ DeBanso, we leave Rob Wright out of it, and he's also a stud. So they have those 2 guys to contend with. I think it'll be a good game. I think BYU gets it, but you know, sometimes you can build momentum off this first 4.
Craig, UT wins it at the buzzer, basically at the buzzer with 1.2 seconds to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go back to yesterday's show, I said in some form or fashion that Texas is a team that's still very talented, and while they might not have been all that impressive throughout the year, they did earn their way in with some marquee victories, less so on the bubble than a rival like Oklahoma because of some of those big games. The record not impressive ultimately, and just as far as leaving an impression, they haven't really done that this year, but they are still talented and still a dangerous team, and they've got a coach who knows all about March. And I thought, and I said as much yesterday, that they're a team that could go in here and maybe make a run. Now, I'm not talking about like Elite Eight or anything crazy like that, but I did think they could, win the play-in game and then maybe go win a first-round game. I think they'll be tough for BYU. I'll still take BYU in that matchup ultimately. But, it was a really nice win for Texas, and had to fend off NC State there, was in control, looked like they were going to just slide to victory, and then NC State makes it very interesting, and then Mark hits that big shot, as you mentioned. So nice win for Texas, a hell of a way to start off March Madness, and there's a win for the SEC, and from a team that people argued the last several days about whether they deserved it or not. Well, whether you thought they deserved it or not, they went and earned it. So that's what I will say is Texas went out and won a tournament game, so I think they proved that they at least belong, more so than NC State did, right, by winning. So, kudos to them for that, and I think that BYU-Texas game ought to be mighty interesting. I'm looking forward to that.
Sean Miller was at Xavier last year, and they went to this play-in game, beat Marquette by 2, and then lost in the second round badly to UConn. who, of course, is salty. But this is the second year in a row that Miller's had a team in that play-in game and won.
Yeah, and you know what? People could complain about Texas getting in all they wanted to. There were two teams in the SEC that also didn't get in that in certain years might have gotten in because the field was the way that it was. But I still contend that nobody that got left out can say they were screwed, and nobody who got in didn't have a case to get in. I think that this year, some years the committee can get it exactly right. I think they, outside of maybe some seeds could have been higher or lower than others at the top, like that's nitpicking. I think they pretty much got it all right this year, and I think they didn't really have to do as much work as they may have in other years because this year kind of balanced itself out.
Both games last night were competitive. Howard holding on after leading by 14 at one point to win that game and move on, and then two games coming up tonight. Before we get to the games tonight, go ahead, Craig. Anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the ending of that game. What did y'all think of Sean Miller, not Sean Miller, but the running out of the court by the assistant coach?
That's what we have here.
Okay.
Yeah, let's look at this first, and then we'll discuss it. This is video from the stands from a fan of the end of the game right as Tremont Mark hits the shot. All right, gets the pass, clock down to about 3, and here's Mark with the shot. Now, watch the court. Watch the white shirt all the way near the free throw line. If you didn't see that, here's a freeze frame of the coach at Texas, Ryan Anderson, and how far he actually was on the court. Can we blow that up for full screen just for a little bit if that's possible? If you look at the free throw line as the shot went in, you see the coach in his white kind of over jacket, whatever you want to call it, sweater. He is at the free throw line. They did not call technical foul. And, of course, Sean Miller then just lost his mind, as you can imagine, and I mean did not stop chewing on him for quite some time. Is that what you were talking about, Craig?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, unless there was some other incident of a coach running out of the field that I didn't recall from last night.
Yeah.
But, that was the moment from last night, and I think it's a call that should have been made. I'm not going to sit here and say Texas screwed NC State or anything like that. I just don't know how you didn't blow the whistle, but apparently this has become commonplace now. So we've seen things like this on nearly a handful of occasions at this point, and that's just that's got to be a technical foul. Like they got to at least set an example for somebody. I'm not using it to be anti the result last night. Texas won the game. They won the game. Mark hit the shot. They won. But as far as the rest of it goes, that should have absolutely been a technical foul. Dude, you're all the way onto the court. There's still time on the clock. Now, I saw a lot of people pointing out, well, NC State should have been more headsy and thrown it in and thrown the inbound pass off the guy. But I do think that in that heat of the moment, you're not exactly thinking about that. And you're probably, if anything, kind of stunned that this coach is all the way out on the court and wondering, is the game over? You got to look up at the clock. That was just a weird deal. And we've seen it a couple of other places here recently. I don't know what – it's almost like the guy's dropping the ball before they cross the goal line. I don't know what gets in the water where all of a sudden something that's so stupid but emotional turns out to suddenly be a trend of some sort, but that's almost what's happened now. So, I think that the officials in the NCAA tournament need to be mindful of that, and that needs to be called moving forward. That's just a weird part of that ending last night.
I even saw some UT fans, and this was the video, and then there's the freeze frame. I'm like, I didn't realize how far I knew he was on the court, and it came back, and the assistant coach brings it, and then Sean Miller loses his mind and goes back at him again. They called timeout, but he was further out even on the court than I saw in the video because there's so much going on. It should be a technical foul. Now, I do know this. NC State called an immediate timeout and maybe even technically before he was out on the court, but I don't think yet the officials had blown the whistle. But that could have been absolute disaster for UT and that coach Ryan Anderson.
Well, that's the official, that's not on, it's on UT for almost doing it. It's on that coach. And Sean Miller, my God, I'm sure they had another discussion.
Do it again.
No, I bet he doesn't do it again. But yeah, you've got to be way smarter than that. But it is something, because it does happen quite a bit where coaches are way too far out there on the floor, that needs to start being maybe called. And the thing is, it would take 2 or 3 times nationally during the regular season for it to be called to where it's a point of emphasis, and then it would solve the majority of the problem. And in that moment would have been huge. That's just the officials missing it and didn't call it. But if they and the narrative, if they had, would have been from the Texas side of well, coaches run it all the time.
There's no
but
way.
You can't.
There's no excuse.
I think Sean
excuse,
Miller would have probably said you should give him 2 tees.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, Sean Miller.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Sean Miller. I'm
Yeah.
saying the Texas fans would have.
I think most
said
of
that.
them-
Well, they would have done so while drinking and chugging their burnt orange
exactly.
Kool-Aid,
Yeah,
because
but-
only people doing such a thing would sit there and try to argue that shouldn't have been a technical foul.
No, it was
So
absolutely 100% a technical foul.
I mean, so Sean Miller let it be known with his reaction. And it hasn't even been so much coaches. We saw it with players over the weekend, running out onto the court thinking the game was over, celebrating a big shot, having to be yanked back to the sidelines. So I would, if I'm the head of officiating, I would wonder how that crew didn't react to that at all last night. I mean, that's pretty over the top. But
The
then
official looked right at him, too, and had patience not to call
Well,
that.
I don't know where I saw this, so and I don't buy everything, especially right now on what I read on social media, but I did see somebody make the comment that said that they were in attendance, which, again, who knows, but that it just felt like the officials are trying to get the game over with, for most of the night. So I don't know if that played a role into it or not, of let's just get the hell out of here, because we do see times where officials clearly are very much in that mood. But either way, whether they just brain farted or they are blind or whatever the case was to where they didn't call that, that needs to be called moving forward. And Sean Miller's reaction tells you all that you need to know about the whole ordeal.
Yep.
There was no, oh no, you let that go in that moment, like it's some pass interference call. It's no, that's pretty clear when dude's at the free throw line. So Texas fortunate that didn't come back to bite them. Boy, what that would have looked like had that become a technical situation, and then next thing you know, how does that all unfold would have been really interesting to see that.
And I'm not sure if that's 1 shot or 2.
Technical fouls are always 2
Yeah,
shots.
I was curious about that, yeah.
But that's also a better lucky than good situation, because it was lucky.
Not the shot.
Not the shot.
Yeah.
The not getting that call.
Yeah.
Because, had he been, let's just move him 6 feet further back, he's still on the court, but, maybe it's not so obvious. Bro's at the free, he could have taken the inbound.
Had they inbounded it right
was all the way
away,
to elbow.
I do think that had they inbounded it right away, but they had the timeout, then perhaps you would have seen a different reaction. The officials looking right at him. Bottom line, great shot by Tremont Mark, huge shot. Texas moves on to play BYU. Now, one other thing from that game was the broadcasting team for True TV was Dick Vitale, Charles Barkley, and Brian Anderson. I saw this as a joke on the broadcast because I had it turned down. It was Charles Barkley. The NCAA is a bunch of scumbags. I have a fat ass. Dick Vitale. I just spoke at a funeral last week. Every person I know is dying. Brian Anderson, Longhorns up by 5, because they were just all over the place.
That's one heck of a crew there. When you've got Dickie V, who I'm amazed can still do the games with all he's been through, and Charles on an actual game is awesome. It's in the Bill Walton kind of way, but I'd rather him be in the studio.
No, he's great in the studio.
Yeah.
That show, of course, different because of the change in as far as the networks, but it was just random. And I saw a lot of people putting up that this was the conversation during the game.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, and it was humorous. But, I mean, as far as if you're locked into the tournament and you're wanting, basketball commentary, then, there were some veering off moments in that broadcast. And that sounds about what it sounded like in the few minutes I was actually paying attention to the commentary. It's a lot of times just sort of background, just sort of muted noise for me. But I think that the inside the NBA guys have really gone overboard on the negativity to the point of I don't enjoy watching it anymore. And I'm somebody who's not pro NBA everything, but I don't enjoy it anymore. It's just a bunch of old guys bitching about how the young guys don't get it. And I know that I'm getting older and I'm going to get to the point, but I try to catch myself where, yeah, sure, there are things that are valid criticism, and my generation is different than your generation, but it's just dude, when it's all the time, it's it sounds as though you don't even like the NBA, but you're the premier NBA show. And I think there's an issue when that's the case. It's clear a lot of the current players don't like those guys because of the amount of criticism. Now, they could also be soft in some ways, but I do think that the TNT, now ESPN guys, kind of like the sniff of their own farts after a while.
Whoa.
And now they've decided to just lean into, because they're old and crabby and cranky, just being old and crabby and cranky about everything. And so to get Charles kind of away from that, I think was good. But at the same time, like, yeah, dude, I mean, Dick Vitale, God love him, but yeah, at this point, it's like Lee Corso. I mean, we're approaching that point with him where it's like, how many comebacks have you made? And thank God you have. Like, I'm glad that you're healthy enough to do a basketball game, but it is like, all right, like, we're kind of at a point where we need to pass the torch at this stage, and I just think that while those guys have been entertaining for many years and probably were entertaining in some moments last night because it was so random, it's like we got to do a better job with the broadcast, in my opinion. But
yeah, I don't know what the viewership will be for those play-in games. Obviously, that's two big brands in basketball, and obviously two big brands overall. But yeah, it was a little bit random, and it. I just thought that guy making up the conversation. At times, I'm not sure that's exactly what they weren't talking about.
You could have.
And did you hear about Charles at the end of the game? Can't they take a timeout and get the ball at midcourt? No, not in college basketball.
See, that's the other thing, is that those, when you put an NBA guy who's doing NBA things, and there are some subtle and some not so subtle differences between the way the games are called and the way the rules play. As a matter of fact, it's one of the reasons I like college basketball more, because I think the NBA's made the rule like it's too easy. I know that these are like the best of the best, but there's a lot of things like call timeout and get the ball at half court.
Yeah, it's even past midcourt.
Yeah, okay, well, why, like, so we can maybe get a better, like, no, I like it. You know, I think the games are too long in the NBA. Like, just all those things. That's just my personal opinion.
It's like a guy gets an extra putt on 18 if he misses the first one to win a tournament or something like that.
I know I sound like a fuddy-duddy. I did not enjoy any of it, but I just, after a while, I grew tired of it, and I love and respect Dick Vitale, and I still really very much do like Charles Barkley and think he can be great in spots. I've really kind of turned the corner on inside the NBA because I don't enjoy it watching it now, so I think that's kind of tainted some of my perspective of hearing Barkley at this point. But there were some enjoyable moments. To have Vitale and Barkley together was very cool. I don't know if you were a Texas fan or an NC State fan, how much you probably enjoyed it, because they talked about a lot of stuff besides the game during it. So I kind of want to make it sound less harsh than I probably said it originally, but it was all over the place and kind of random. So if that's your thing, then you enjoyed it. If you were more like in the game and focused on that, then yeah, it wasn't the pairing for you. But if you were kind of maybe in the middle like I was, of not so much a fan of either team, but still focusing on the game itself, but also appreciating that you had these two legendary basketball figures together for this one night, like I did enjoy that. I don't want to make it sound too to the negative side. I just think that sometimes you do need to reel it in a little bit, and sometimes you kind of throw the last one. Like, come on back, guys, just a little bit.
I think Brian Anderson has no chance.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
Who was the guy that did games with Walton? He was fantastic, and he knew how to let Bill just wander off. And then kind of.
I also think maybe there's sometimes he would tap him, just like, hey, just pause this story about the Himalayas for 1 second, so I can say that the foul was on Jenkins.
Okay, I got to smoke a joint. Go ahead.
But to Barkley, just on my opinion, your comment about inside the NBA, Craig, I think part of it is the whole NBA ecosystem is sour right now. The players are sour, the analysts are sour, and it's a never-ending cycle of everybody's mad about the product in a certain way. The fans are mad about the product. The players don't think the fans should be mad. The old-school players don't think the guys respect the game enough. The commissioner, I don't know what his deal is. You know, all those different things.
He's worried about college football meetings.
So if inside, I think any of the pregame shows or postgame shows on any network often reflect the vibe around a league at a certain time. And I think that the vibe around the NBA right now is really stressed and tense and negative.
I don't watch. Yeah.
And so because of that, you're going to get more of a negative view on things.
I don't watch NBA studio shows. I watch those guys during the tournament with Kenny Smith and Shaq, et cetera, Ernie, and they're fantastic. But that last night was pushing it. Dave Pash was the name. Thank you, Paxton. Used to do the Bill Walton games.
Yeah, I think that was one of the most polarizing broadcast combinations because you can easily go find, I'm sure, a string of, I hate this, they cannot stay on topic, what are they talking about, how random, and then at the same time, you've got people who I came across who are like these legendary figures just talking. I could listen to them all day. I saw several people refer to it like a podcast.
Yeah.
But the problem was they were broadcasting a basketball game, so that's what the other people had an issue with it. So I appreciated some of it. I also know where the other side was coming from. So I don't know how many more games we'll see them call together, but I do enjoy both on their own, and that was interesting to see them brought together for better and worse as far as that went.
2 more games tonight. We saw that Howard won, and they play Michigan. And then Texas won, and I said they play BYU. These are the games tonight in Dayton, Ohio. Yet again, 5:40 Central Time, actually. Prairie View A&M and Lehigh, 2 16 seeds. And then the game between 31-1, Miami of Ohio, that's gotten a lot of attention, and SMU. And SMU got some pretty good news today, guys. They're going to get B.J. Edwards. He worked out for SMU. That was would have been Tuesday. Expected to be listed as questionable at worst for the game with Miami of Ohio. Ankle injury played a big role in his SMU struggling down the stretch, but he should be available for that game against Miami of Ohio.
Yeah, and they're going to need him. They're walking into a hornet's nest. There's not going to be a lot of SMU guys there tonight, fans tonight, compared to Miami, Ohio playing a home game. That they're playing a home game. That's what it's going to be.
Yep, they're in Dayton, not far away. And also Miami of Ohio, the great story at the end. They couldn't finish it, lost in the tournament, the conference tournament, but they're in the tournament itself. And then you have Louisville with Mikael Brown Jr. ruled out for their game. Not only if they win, if they ruled out their first game, but if they win, he's not going to play until after the weekend. So he is out for a couple of days because of a back issue. And so Mikael Brown Jr. is out until if Louisville gets through the first couple of rounds.
Well, they got 11 seed South Florida ahead of them. It's pretty good.
Yep.
Well, I think good opportunity again for some of these smaller schools, and we very briefly touched on Howard also winning last night because we talked so much about Texas and NC State at really the end of that game. But phenomenal win for the Howard program. Read a little bit of a story about their head coach and just kind of his journey and him raising the program up, and thought that was fun little ending there and a great win for Howard. So very cool to see history made. First ever NCAA tournament victory in the program's entire history. And so anytime you get a mark like that, when there's so many stats being thrown, this is like the 32nd time they've won by 3 or more in March on the 15th and things like that. But just something clear cut, first program win in the NCAA tournament ever. You don't see that all that often, and that's really freaking cool. And so I thought that was great to see Howard handle business last night and get the close win over Maryland, Baltimore County.
They were up 14, Craig. And
they almost let it slip through their fingers. They had
really
to hold on to that one. And so, really nice job of just preserving the victory because, God, I can't imagine what that would have felt like to walk away and still not have won an NCAA tournament game and to have had it in hand and to have let it gone to the wayside. So, really cool story. And really good job that coach is doing. And his name escapes me. I was just reading the article last night, but really enjoed that
Blakeney,
victory.
I think it is. Yeah, and he had one of his children were on the podium after the game, and he has the name tag on the podium, and they reach over and they move it in front of them as they were there with him in the post game. But a great win for Howard, and they
Kenny Blakeney.
Michigan. Yeah, Kenny Blakeney.
His name escapes me, but yeah.
And then we're going to get into some college football notes and all of that. We have 3 guests lined up today, and we'll have Brian Estridge, voice of TCU, at 4:40 today. We'll have Kevin Sweeney, who we tried to get on Tuesday, didn't work out. He'll join us at 4 today from Sports Illustrated. And King McClure, who is doing one of the play-in games tonight. He will join us. He's part of the True TV and also radio broadcast. He'll join us as he's now had that TV career since he played at Baylor. And how about last night? My goodness. So I was not watching the first part of the World Baseball Classic. And then I turn it over, and Bryce Harper goes deep. And I thought of you, but I was like, cool, Craig's going to be happy to see finally him deliver. And I mean, he smoked it. And then Venezuela gets a leadoff walk in the 9th. They win the game. The excitement, the energy, what it meant to Venezuela and what it meant to all the players was just so much fun to watch, whether you wanted, of course, the U.S. to win or not?
Well, I think I have a lot of thoughts on it. Venezuela cared a whole lot. This new microphone position I'm not used to it. But Venezuela cared so much, and part of it just for the nation of Venezuela, who's been through 30 years of really tough life. And then it's not any better right now. Like it's just really hard living there and dealing with all the things that are going on. And then if a baseball series can give you those brief moments of joy, that always warms the cockles of my heart when you're talking about like these kind of events. And it meant so much to them. The crowd in Miami was so fired up, and they were so passionate, and you could see it. With the Americans, it just didn't seem like that. And then they actually played it well enough to where they had Venezuela at the absolute end of their bullpen. Miguel Cabrera was going to have to come out and try to pitch because they were done. But the Americans, didn't have Tarek Skubal. He went back to the Tigers, and when I know Garrett Whitlock because I watch him all the time with the Red Sox, when they trotted him out there, I was like, Viva Venezuela, that's what's going to happen.
It's a cardinal sin to walk the leadoff batter anytime, but especially in the top of the ninth.
Yeah.
Well, it was a really disappointing finish for America, and I just wanted to bash my head against the wall watching them offensively for the majority of the night until Bryce Harper hit the home run. I mean, absolutely nothing on offense. And that was really the entire tournament. I mean, it wasn't like that was just suddenly last night the bats went cold. The bats were cold the entire tournament. And some people want to now, wow, this is so great. Let's change everything about it. Let's move the dates. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I guess part of that was, well, if they play in the middle of the season, then the bats will be warm. Not necessarily. I don't think that the Venezuelans had that hard of a time knocking in runs. The Dominicans didn't have a hard time knocking in runs. So I don't think it was that the American players needed to be 82 games into the schedule to be warmed up enough to hit, because it sure as hell didn't bother some of the other teams. I don't know what the issue was. You should not be able to score runs when you've got Aaron Judge and Bryce Harper and Bobby Witt Jr. and on, Kyle Schwarber, on and on and on. But for some reason, they just sucked offensively throughout this entire tournament, and they relied on home runs, basically. And it's not like they got those in bunches. They got them like solo shot here, the 2-run last night. But it did just feel like a foregone conclusion for a majority of that game that they were just going to lose like 2-0 basically, because of how each inning was just passing on along. Venezuela, to their credit, was pitching very, very well. And then Bryce Harper does have the big moment. You're like, wow, he's finally going to win something for a team. And then they turn right around, and the lead lasted all of the tie lasted all of 5 minutes practically before Venezuela went back up for good. And yeah, that was just extremely frustrating and disappointing to watch. The Venezuelans, you could see how much it meant to them, and just their love of baseball was clear throughout the entire tournament, and so was it for a lot of other countries as well. But that meant the world to them, and that was cool to see for their team, just how much that meant. But it would have meant a lot to the Americans, and yet you can't shake that feeling that as much as at times Paul Skeens showed his patriotism or talked about it, or Aaron Judge talked about how cool it was to wear something other than the Yankees black and white, and he's already pretty much said, like, I'm back next time, in so many words. There was just something not quite, I don't know. There's something just kind of off with the team vibe in general.
Could it have been Venezuela's just really good, or just talking about the whole tournament?
I'm talking about the whole tournament. They were just kind of there, and then they were like sort of excited at times, but it never felt. And look, I'm not trying to compare them to the Dominicans or the Venezuelans, because that wouldn't be fair. They shouldn't all react the same. I don't expect the Japanese to react like the Dominicans, because just culturally that's not how they are. So the Americans are going to have their own way of sort of just beyond the norms of celebration or disappointment. They're not necessarily going to turn it up to 20 like the Venezuelans do, or the Dominicans. But they had it at like 4.5 most of the tournament, and that was the part that I just didn't really understand.
When you have a manager that was willing to power down the lineup because, A, he didn't understand, and B, like, if that's the vibe that you're putting out in the locker room of like, hey, this game against Italy isn't that big of a deal. Well, that was not the case with Japan or the Dominican or Italy or any of those other teams. they weren't powering down the lineup because they were trying to do. It's the World Baseball Classic, man. Like, you've got a couple more games. Figure it out. Like,
should they increase the amount of people who are on the pitching staff for something like this?
Pitching wasn't the issue.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost 3-2. Yeah.
Here's a note from Jeff Passan. He covers Major League Baseball to kind of, I guess, validate what both of you are saying. Venezuela is a magnificent baseball country, rich with history, full of life, with love and passion for the game that makes it even better. Their players have been moved to tears with good reason. Baseball means everything to them. This means everything to them. So that's a great note from a guy that covers baseball every day.
And I think it means a lot to the Americans. I think it'd be silly to like do the Skip Bayless type of routine of where they don't care about. I think they care. I just think it was a weird group of chemistry, and I don't know what you attribute that to. I think you make a change at manager undoubtedly for the next tournament. Now, thing is, next tournament, World Baseball Classic, is not for 4 years. It'll be the Olympics up next, and I'll be happy to be front row seat for what's already going to be the narrative about the redemption team. It's going to be like the basketball team when they didn't win it finally one year, and it's like, oh, it's the redeemed team. Get ready for that marketing for the next American baseball team in the LA Olympics, since it is in LA and it's the first time you're going to likely see pros getting involved in the Olympics. So I'm sure a lot of this team will be on that team, Paul Skeens and those types of guys, but yeah, I think they definitely need to change at manager, and they need to figure out whatever the sort of weird vibe was amongst that collection of talent, because I think they enjoyed playing with each other. I think they enjoyed their time. They said as much. All of them did. They all wanted to represent America clearly by being there, but it just didn't come across that way all that often. And then you paint it against the backdrop of guys who take it up like 5 notches past the norm, and it really pales in comparison. You're like, God, they are really drab and dull and boring compared to Dominicans or Venezuelans. But yeah, that was a great event, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it was a great thing for baseball globally. And if the people in charge are smart, then they will pick this momentum up and roll with it, because I do think they're at a point in time where maybe interest in the NBA is waning a little bit. And you're not going to top football, but I do think you can gain some ground that maybe you've lost over the years when you have been behind the times and dull and boring as a sport. And now you're like kind of turning into the opposite of that and making it more exciting. So I hope they can kind of capture that lightning in a bottle.
Yeah. And look, they've got other sports coming on their heels that weren't there before, where now soccer is more popular than it's ever been. Now, they're not going to overtake baseball, but if they take away those kids that grew up watching baseball, and then 40 years from now, there's 5% less.
Wait a minute, you talking about the United States in soccer?
Yeah, it's more popular now than it's ever been. And in the United States, that's not to say that all of a sudden that soccer's the Beatles. What I'm saying is that, and when you're a sport like baseball who's stuck in this middle of, you get popular, you're stuck into momentum, and then you take 2 steps back, you can't afford another sport coming in and taking away people who could be there forever. That's what I'm saying.
I know soccer is had their runs, and but it's nowhere.
Take soccer out of my argument. My argument is it's all the other sports that can take fans away from baseball is what I'm saying. If they can't keep going forward, every other thing that's way more popular now than it used to be is going to take away from them.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't want you to get hung up on one thing. I just use that as an example. I'm not the one getting hung up on it.
You said it, and I've heard that 25 years ago. I'm just making sure that has never happened, and maybe one day you're right. Maybe it does.
Yeah, I think MLB's got a strike around the corner, and that could be something that really puts a dent in all this this fun feeling right now. But the Olympics in 28 ought to be great. And, yeah, I think that to Paul's point, we've heard about soccer for a long time. Now, it's never truly gained all that much ground that's been noticeable, to your point. But I do think if you're baseball, you just spin your wheels, you are going to lose ground to other things that are more interesting. And it may not be soccer. It might be video games. It might be TikTok or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're going to lose ground. And I think they've made attempts to spice things up. And I think this was a very nice step forward. But if they turn around and they strike in 2 years, or they turn around and Team USA's team bore in the LA Olympics, then I think that could hurt. And so we'll see how they handle things moving forward.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have I'm not saying soccer is ever going to take over anything in this country. It's not. What I'm saying is it's now more popular. Video games are more popular. When baseball became America's pastime, it only had one competitor, and it was a fledgling NFL.
Yep, that's true. That is true.
Now there is a whole lot more competition, and baseball has not grown with it. Baseball, because it's such a traditional sport, kind of didn't change things that it could have changed for a long time, and lost, I think, maybe a full generation of youth from probably the early 2000s on that just kind of let it go.
After the steroid issues?
After the steroid, like those kind of things. It was more bad than good that happened to baseball all around, and, work stoppages and COVID and all these different things. And now they've got some nice momentum. They just need to continue to push it.
I'm putting a bubble on your mic.
I know. I'm just not used to it.
Yeah, that's okay. It happens. So there we are with that. We'll look at a couple other things. One note that's a football news and notes we'll have it around 4:25 today after a couple of different guests. One note I do want to bring up, in college baseball, we have seen this now quite some time. 8 of the top 10 teams in the top 10 in baseball, college baseball, 8 of the top 10 teams have been stunned, upset in midweek games. Last night, Tarleton State beat UT, the number 2 ranked team in the country, 6-1. And now another top 10 team is beaten in a midweek game against somebody that obviously doesn't have the same facilities or even anything else, but we're starting to see that quite a bit in college baseball, which is good. That means the younger or the smaller programs are having a chance to get maybe better pitching, et cetera, with the way the portal is working out.
I'm just happy for Garrett that it wasn't LSU this time.
Well, they've already had
been the last 2 or 3 hickeys, in the midweek.
Yeah.
Now, I do think, sometimes the good teams, I think, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Tarleton, teams they don't take Tuesdays seriously enough, and then it hurts them.
You're not going to pitch your Friday, Saturday.
No, but they not just that, it's like everything. They don't take it quite seriously enough, and they need to, and it hurts you later on more so than in the middle of the year. But yeah, good for Charlton getting a win over UT, who's very, very good this season, and I think they're starting to get back. They're starting to get some of that baseball mojo back in Austin, but stuff like this doesn't help.
Yeah, well, they haven't lost it. You talk about, my goodness, the runs that they've been on. Okay, when we come back, our first guest will join us. It's King McClure, and his thoughts about the play-in games tonight and also last night and the tournament itself. King McClure is next, and this is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. How can he help you? 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Your low T, your level is low, and it can create different symptoms. Energy, focus, sleeping habits, sex drive, lack of performance, all of the above. That can be your low T. It can be other things too, but that's a problem. And so contact Dr. Kent Petty and his staff at pettycliniclowt.com, and you can tell them I sent you. Then tell them that you have this symptom or that symptom, or you just don't feel right. You get to meet with him, and then he'll set up blood work for you to get blood work. He'll get the results, look at the T levels, and if your T level is too low, maybe just a little bit, a smidge, or maybe quite a bit low, he could put you in a program to increase your testosterone level so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
A
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%. Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels. We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
And it is great to get a great friend of the show back on with us. We covered him, and now he covers college basketball with ESPN. King McClure joins us on 365 Sports with 2 more games tonight after the 2 games Howard and UT winning last night. King, it's great to have you on the show. You have continued to rise up that ladder of what you do. I think you told me last night that you were doing one of the play-in games. Is that correct tonight? Do we have him? Okay. Is he not hearing us, or are we not hearing him?
We tested that earlier, so.
All right, King McClure will join us here in just a second. Let me get to a couple other stories, Craig, that we didn't get to in the opening segment that we could carry over. The WNBA has a new deal where the players are going to get minimum, I think, is like $230,000 a year as they reach an agreement and finally have some sort of labor peace and getting paid for a league that has really taken a nice jump in the last 2 to 3 years.
Congrats to them on getting that deal done. I've heard a lot about the back and forth on that. So, yeah, good for the WNBA. I'm not a fan of the product to where I paid much attention to all the back and forth on this, but I know it's been ongoing, and if it's a step up for women athletes to make more money, and they've carved out a niche where they've proven that there's more value out there to raise contracts and the price of teams and things like that, bringing more fans, putting butts in seats, and certainly riding the wave of momentum of the Caitlin Clarks and the Angel Reeses and those folks, then, I think they're somebody, much like we were talking about with baseball, that's riding a little bit of a wave that you need to take advantage of, and the players have certainly done that in trying to make sure that it turns into more money for them, and it sounds like they've been successful in that. I don't know who won or who lost in this. I, again, have not paid really any attention whatsoever to it about the details, but good. Glad they got that done. Good for them.
Well, they've been doing this for a long time, and they have been basically supplemented by the NBA and the attendance and much more. I don't watch the WNBA, or I haven't seen myself or caught myself watching it much. But here's an example: the salary cap will be at $7 million. It was $1.5 million last year, so each team has much more money. The Supermax for a player is at $1.4 million. It was at $250,000. So the average salary will be around $600,000. The average salary prior to this agreement was $120,000. Also, one note for those of you, if you have not filled out your bracket, I try to give you a nugget about how this tournament goes and the trends for the various lower seeds or whoever it might be. From Sportico, the number 11 seeds are the ones that create the madness when it comes to the upsets. Yeah, you hear about the 5-12 or a 15-2, but 21% of the number 11 seeds have reached the Sweet 16 since 2005. So the last 20 years, 21% of the 11 seeds have reached the Sweet 16, which means they didn't just win one game, they won two to get to the second weekend. That's much higher than anything else when it comes to the other seeds. So that is a nugget for you when you're filling out your bracket. I've already filled out my bracket. I don't have too many double-digit seeds winning. I'm not shocked, but I don't have too many, but that's something for you to think about. In fact, the next at 11% is both the number 10 and number 12 seeds, about half as many that advance to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I don't know what you, I guess, attribute that to, but certainly that's another little piece of advice. I saw Evan Miyakawa had like his list of all the insights and his own little, I guess, show on what all the big news and notes to know are. And, yeah, I think there's been a lot of devouring of things over the last couple of days as people fill out their brackets. So, hey, why not another one, the 11 seed? I'm sure that may have been a part of what a lot of people maybe already knew. But, that's I haven't finished mine, actually. I need to do that before the show's over with today. I've gotten like halfway through it, but I'll keep that in mind as I fill out my bracket.
Rez, do you have the picture that I sent to you in the base camp of a viewer in the T-shirt? If you have that, if you could show that, let me know as we're trying to figure. Okay, we got King? Okay, all right. Yes, the picture, there he is. That is Barry Crawford. He is firefighter in the chat room. And that's the shirt that back, I think it was when DJ Lagway committed to Baylor, and then, of course, a lot of days went by, and he didn't sign, and then finally did, and everyone was like, you know, they were hyperventilating. They were like PTSD because so many things in Baylor football of late has not been good. And I just said everybody needs to just relax, and so it got a little bit of steam, not a lot, but a little bit of steam. They made the shirts with what we do here with 365 Sports. And my man, Barry Crawford, thank you very much. So if Barry, and look at Barry, he is going to find you. If you don't buy one of those T-shirts, you can find it on our website at Rogue Media Network. So thank you, Barry, for putting that up. Appreciate you.
Yeah, so one shirt sold so far.
No,
right?
no. I've mentioned there's been some others. It's not like 100 or 1,000. But if you, I'm going to knight him. He's now knighted in the chat room. But there have been a handful of other shirts, and I think maybe 90% of the ones that I bought for myself. But I do appreciate, Barry, you doing that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Barry. And, yeah, check it out. Hopefully Andrew can, like, drop a link in the chat or something along those lines to point people in the right direction. But good to know that there are some purchases out there. And shout out to Barry for being a longtime follower of the show and supporting the show. So thank you very much for that, Barry.
All right, so in the chat room, you will now, okay, yeah, I will, you are Sir Firefighter, and everybody in the chat will do that as well. What is your Final Four? If you want to give that to us, who's in your Final Four? Put it in the chat room, we'll mention it here on 365 Sports. Who is in your Final Four? I have Arizona, I have Duke, I have Houston, and I have, I think Iowa State in my Final Four, which is crazy because that's 3 Big 12 teams in the Final Four. I would love to see that. And the way if all of them play at a certain level, that can happen. They could also all get knocked out even before they get to that point at some point. So there we are with, give me your Final Four teams here in the chat. Let's see. From General Ursus, a Tennessee fan, Duke, Arizona, Houston, and Iowa State. That's pretty damn good. In fact, that's what I just said mine was. Duke, Houston, Iowa State, and also Arizona. So there we are with that. Thanks for the feedback from General Ursus. From Roger, UCLA, he's a USC fan, Georgetown, Villanova, and Duke. From Clarence, Duke, Arizona, Houston, and Iowa State as the same as mine, and also from earlier when General Ursus had his as well. And Craig, you're going to fill out your bracket tonight?
Yeah, I got halfway through, just had a lot of other stuff going on, so I didn't get to finish out the rest of it before I got interrupted, but I will make it official later on tonight, and I think I have the one you just mentioned, the second one, like UCLA, that was sort of, if you're correct, then this tournament's about to be an absolute madhouse, because that means you got some higher seeds that are going deep. And I'd be all for that. As somebody with real no skin in the game, I'd love to see some madness here in March. And we got some pretty good drama last night with both of those play-in games. So if that's setting the tone, then we are in for a hell of a ride. But, yeah, that's interesting. I saw a path where you could, if you wanted to be the ultimate homer, you could definitely put 4 Big 12 teams in the Final Four. And I don't think it's like so homery that it's nonsensical. You're not pandering. You could actually make a case for why that could happen, and that's just really interesting. I wouldn't go that far, but I do think I'm going to have like at least 2, if not 3 out of the 4 I do think are going to be from the Big 12, and I am not a homer in that way. I think anybody who's been around me can acknowledge that. I just think that those teams are that good, and the paths are there for them to be able to get to that point. So, yeah, I think there's a great opportunity for that league. But then again, so is there for everybody else. But I just think with the strength they have as far as those top teams go, having number 1, number 2 seeds that are playing pretty well right now, there's a way that could all happen. And, God, I can't even imagine what that conversation would be like if you were to have a league that has 3 out of the 4 Final Four teams or something along those lines. So, I'll have my final picks, I suppose, tomorrow. But that is kind of where I'm trending right now.
Tomorrow, Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach, will be here early in the day, and we will interview him for the show tomorrow. And speaking of that, here was Athlon's magazine, 10 head coaches on the hot seat. Now, some of these are new names, and some of them are not a surprise. Mike Norvell at Florida State is obviously in hot water, needs to win. Luke Fickell, Wisconsin, after a very disappointing start for him. Dave Aranda, 3rd. Mike Loxley at Maryland, 4. Del McGee, Georgia State. Then you have Derek Mason, used to be at Vanderbilt. Bill O'Brien at Boston College. Shane Beamer. Man, at the end of the 2024 season, South Carolina was like the queen of the prom. And then Lincoln Riley at 9. And then Belichick, North Carolina at number 10.
I think that's all pretty much the usual suspects as far as what we've been talking about for a while now. I mean, some of these guys making deals to stick around longer, whether it's giving some of their contract to like NIL or just ensuring they'll do this, that, or the other. A lot of these names could also, in some cases, be examples of schools just not having the money to do it right now. Contractually, it doesn't make sense. I think some of that played into Dave Aranda for sure, and I think as well as Loxley, and could mention others, but those two jump to mind as far as just it's not really feasible at the moment to make a move. So I think one more year, while it hurts the fans and certainly the most passionate ones, you kind of can at least understand it's not just well, we don't see the problems, we're just going to keep this guy around. You folks take this too seriously. It's not like we really can't do anything, but rest assured that like we are very well aware of the issues. I think it's very safe to say Doug McNamee's aware of the feeling of the fan base, and so he didn't get to make that choice when he took over as AD. I don't think he will be slow to make that choice if he needs to this go around. So yes, Dave Aranda is very much on the hot seat at this point, and he has to be. I mean, we're like 7 years into this thing. This isn't a couple years and it didn't work out, or you're a year removed from winning the Big 12 and the greatest season in school history. You did accomplish that, but that's also like 5 years ago now at this point. I mean, it's 5 years ago. So what is that in college football terms? It's a freaking lifetime. How much is different from 5 years ago? Everything, given that team that they won that championship with, both the Big 12 and Sugar Bowl, was non-NIL, and that all of that changed the following year. So in the 5 years since that greatest year ever, it's been very middling to kind of good to not good at all. And 5 years is enough of a sample size. So, yes, very important year for him. I think it's the same thing. I mean, Mike Norvell, yes, you accomplished something great a couple of years ago, but you are trending downward in a major way at this stage, and the program's just kind of losing a bit of its luster. Luke Fickell, I think he was maybe another one of those as far as the NIL givings and things like that, but Clear Wisconsin just knowing that there's an issue but not quite ready to pull that trigger, but they will next year if they need to. I think that's pretty obvious. So, yeah, those guys have been the talking points for quite a while now. And then the others I've seen kind of come and go. Lincoln Riley's Lincoln Riley is a name that obviously makes a lot of sense, but I don't know. I don't feel like right now he's recruiting really, really well.
He's on a heater. He's on a heater.
I mean, I understand that you have a certain expectation, but if he's recruiting this well and he wins a notable amount of games, if it's not 12-2 or something like that, then or if he were to go like 8-4, then I could see where, yeah, that's just not where we should be given what's at your disposal and given how long you've been here at this point, things like that. But let's see. That's a really interesting program to follow because the frustration has been growing, and certainly he's done himself no favors with the media over the years and just kind of the fans over the years as well. So that one's a really interesting spot because I do think there are some good things happening in Los Angeles, but he also set a very high bar for himself, and he also put a target on his own back, particularly in Norman, Oklahoma. So, yeah, that's going to be a really interesting one to watch there in Los Angeles.
I wonder whether it was true or not, is that when he left Oklahoma, when they joined the SEC, and then he goes to USC, then they joined the Big Ten, there was at least some smoldering out there about him wanting to get away from not being in the SEC. I can't imagine somebody at that level making that kind of money, and then what he gets at USC and where he's living with a helicopter, that would have been something to say he was dodging anybody. And that's kind of out there, though. He needs a 12-2, or he needs to go 2 rounds or so deep in the playoffs and have himself a team.
I mean, I definitely think he needs to make the playoffs to ensure he's got his job still. So there is a high bar still to reach. Like I said, I don't think he can go 8-4 and feel all that secure. I do think you need to be at worst like top 3 in the Big Ten, and you need to make the playoff. But yeah, he's got a lot of pressure on his plate, and deservedly so. They didn't hire him to not make the playoff. They didn't hire him to not win the Big Ten. They didn't hire him to just be competitive and recruit well. They hired him to recruit well and then go be in the mix, and they've not really been in the mix, certainly to the level that you expected, certainly not compared to the level that he set at Oklahoma, where they were in the playoff every year when it was a 4-team playoff. Now, different league, different whatever. But, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He's definitely not the hottest of the hot seats. I think that is your Arandas and your Fickles and your Mike Norvells, but that would be the biggest splash, I think, of the names that were listed there. Florida State would be a huge job if it opened up. Wisconsin would be a really big job. Yep. Baylor would be a desirable job. But USC and Lincoln Riley, that's very polarizing combination. So, yeah, a lot of eyes will be watching that very closely.
Fickell and Wisconsin, the first time since 91-92 with back-to-back losing records. They were 4-8. And, this is how fans can be. So we have 2 that I know of USC fans that get in the chat room, and we're about to take a break. We SC fight on. That's a stupid article. The only way Riley is fired is if we go 4-8 or worse. And then right after that, Roger Dodger, a USC fan, I think Riley needs 10 wins, 8-4 or worse, gets the tarmac treatment, which of course goes back to when Lane Kiffin was fired.
Yeah, so that's a difference of opinions, and certainly there's a lot of stock or a lack of stock that you can put into any of the types of articles like that come out. I do think there's some obvious names that are certainly, they are on the hot seat undoubtedly, and I do think Lincoln Riley's got some flames that are flickering at his feet. I don't think he's to the extent of those other guys. I think 8-4 he might be okay, but I do think that's where you're starting to push the button of like, all right, you didn't make the playoff again. You didn't probably contend too much for the Big Ten title because you're probably losing 3 or 4 conference games alone, so I can't imagine that's putting you in a really good spot. And that's where I think you reevaluate things. But I'm not a Trojan insider who knows what the school board or the president or whoever is. I don't know who the school board people are, who the president is that are that are making these decisions and where their heads are at this moment. But the nation thinks he's on the hot seat. That's for damn sure. And I do think he is to some extent in Los Angeles.
We are now joined by Kevin Sweeney from SI.com, college basketball writer, and does a lot more than that. Kevin, thank you for your time. We do appreciate you coming on with us today on 365 Sports. We saw a couple of games last night. UT gets the big win, Howard's first ever tournament win. Games tonight of interest as well with SMU and Miami of Ohio. It seems like this was pretty much a cut and dried bracket with maybe one or two teams one way or the other. And they want to expand, and you did an article about that. What would have been those extra 8 to 12 teams or so? Would that just been a bunch of blah if they would have gone expansion this year?
I've got them maxed out on the levels. This is only half a level.
Kevin, if you asked fans, they wouldn't want it. The only people who want this are the corporate overlords of the league, right?
It's probably fair to say. It's probably more widespread support sort of in what industry circles. When you talk to mid-major conference commissioners, a lot of them are interested in making it happen. They think it maybe helps their at-large cases. I'm sort of skeptical of that actually happening, but
that's their view of things. Obviously, a lot of coaches are actually in favor of it. Tether to the 64 team or the 68 team field. They like the idea of rewarding more teams. I understand that angle to an extent, but I would say overall it is not a fan supported move. At least if they are, they're not the folks you see on the internet, because my mentions are filled up every day with people saying, I don't know why we would expand this tournament.
Kevin, Texas with a nice dramatic win. Fortunately, referees with their whistles in their pockets as the assistant coach decided to go celebrate a little bit early, but nevertheless, a nice win by them. And then Howard, first NCAA tournament win in program history. Any thoughts on just kind of how we started things? I mean, if this is the tone that's being set, we are in for a wild-ass ride here over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it was a great start, no question about it. Obviously, an impressive win for Texas. Found a way to hold on late after the NC State surge. I think they have a great chance against a BYU team that's coming in really cold and without one of its best players, Richie Saunders. So, Texas, an opportunity here to potentially advance in this bracket. And then, not the funnest matchup for Howard, the reward of going to play Michigan, who's loaded. But I tell you what, man, that UMBC Howard game was very high level, especially by quote unquote 16 seed game standards. Howard's a very good basketball team. They dominated their league all year long. They're big and athletic and long, especially for that level. Kenny Blakeney's now made the tournament there three of the last 4 years. Done a great job and deserves a lot of credit for the program he's built at Howard.
Yeah, it's great. The 16. Now, how do they slot? I know some of the smaller mid-majors are going to get the 16 seeds, but you have 11 seeds. It might be better than the 12 seeds that they're going to play. Kevin, can you kind of take us through how they slot some of those, maybe the seeds between 5 and 12 or so?
Yeah, it's obviously chaotic. It's a good mix sort of trying to balance the resume metrics we talk about, like wins above bubble, strength of record, the quad one wins, things like that, but also your quality metrics. How good do we predict you'll be in the future? That's what things like KenPom try to do. So, a team like Miami, Ohio, the committee stated that Miami, Ohio was the fourth to last team in the field, and that the committee goes through and chooses the 68 and then they seed it. They were fourth to last in the field, so they were relatively comfortably in the field, had a couple of spaces of gap, but then once they seeded it and they went through and looked at the the metrics, Miami was a few spots lower. They were the last team seeded above in the at-large pool, if that makes any sense. So as far as some of these bracket, as for the first four go, it is not the last four teams selected always. It is the last four seeded. In most cases, those overlap, but there can be a few exceptions here and there.
Okay.
Which number one seed has the best chance to go out before, say, the Elite Eight?
It's funny. I've been asked that question in pretty much every iteration. Who's most likely to lose in the first weekend? Who's least likely to make the Final Four? I haven't gotten Sweet 16 yet, so that adds a wrinkle. I think Arizona is really vulnerable in a Sweet 16 game against either Wisconsin or Arkansas. Right, those are two teams that have elite guards, can really score, and two teams that have kind of played up to their competition throughout the year. So that's the one that probably concerns me. I do think this weekend, I think Duke and Michigan, who I think have maybe the most comfortable overall paths, they have scary second-round games, especially if Duke is without Patrick Gongba, their starting center. He's not likely to play against Siena. We'll see what happens here in a couple days if he's able to recover in time, but already without Caleb Foster. And both TCU and Ohio State playing really well. I mean, I'm not telling you Duke's losing. They've been dominant of late, but those two teams are playing better than your typical 8 and 9 seed at the moment.
How much of a, bet would you put on the Big 12 being able to perhaps get 3 of the Final Four? And I know it's getting way ahead, but a combination of like Arizona, Iowa State, and like a Houston. How strong of a chance do you think, or how good of an opportunity do you think the league has to pull off something like that? Or do one of those teams not quite have that sort of run in them, in your opinion?
I think all of them individually are probably in good shape, or have a real chance. Collectively, I'm not going to sit here and say I expect 3, but 2 is not an unreasonable goal, and we saw that last year with the SEC and the dominant year that they had, winding up with Florida and Auburn left standing in San Antonio. Yeah, it's been a while. San Antonio. So I think 2 is definitely reasonable. Houston obviously getting to play in their backyard in the potential second weekend matchup against Florida would be huge. That's a massive benefit on their side to have essentially 2 home games if they can get that far. So I think they're in good shape. I think Iowa State's really, really good. And then obviously Arizona has been as consistent as any team all year.
You also do the draft with SI now, not to mention you cover the hell out of college basketball. Is this one of the more intriguing options of who will be one? Acuff, DeBansa, Peterson, obviously. There's a great article I saw by somebody today. I read the whole thing about what he's been through. But is this going to be one of the more difficult ones, or do you feel like it's pretty cut and dry who's going to go 1?
I don't know if it's cut and dry. I think a month ago I would have said it's pretty clearly Darren Peterson. And now I think because of the injuries and the lack of explosion that he's had athletically here the last couple of weeks, that things have maybe evened up a little bit. AJ DeBonsa has a lot of supporters. I do think that they're kind of tier 1. I'd be very surprised if Boozer, Wilson, Acuff, anyone else is able to emerge beyond that group. But the NCAA tournament has a funny way of sort of shaping the narrative. You have to remember, obviously GMs, scouting people, et cetera, certainly their whole job is evaluating this stuff. But the more, quote unquote, other cooks in the kitchen start getting involved, starting really in March, opinion can change a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Darius Acuff's going to be the number 1 pick, but if Darius Acuff leads Arkansas to a Final Four as the kind of Kemba Walker or Shabazz Napier of this tournament, it might change his stock. And even obviously moving down the rankings. Guys play their way into the first round every year with the way that they've played in the tournament. So no question, I think it's certainly an intriguing one. It's a strong top of unbelievable top 5, 6, 7 guys, better than we've seen in quite some time.
Kevin, do you think, you mentioned Darren Peterson and lack of explosion. How do you feel about Kansas's chances if he does finally, I've been using the term paint his masterpiece, like that Kemba Walker, like Darius Acuff could do?
I love Darren. I think he's an unbelievable talent. I still think at his best, he will be the best player in this draft class. I do think that the lack of explosion has hurt him getting to the rim, and I don't think that's coming back necessarily this month. But at the same time, I would be very curious to know long term, like where that stands. And that's, I think, what the NBA teams are going to want to evaluate, the medicals and whatnot. So I think it will be very interesting to see how he handles March, but he's like the ultimate gamer. Like that's the biggest misconception out there, that Derek Peterson doesn't want to play, doesn't want to compete. Like dude's the ultimate competitor, ultimate gamer. I'm excited to see what the March stage brings him.
Yeah, the article I read, he's maybe just kind of starting to get warmed up just in time, which wouldn't surprise me at all. And he can carry a team. There's an article about the Cinderellas, and there's always going to be one or two that go deeper than the others, and they almost put that slipper into the Final Four. I see pictures of VCU, Virginia Commonwealth, St. Louis, High Point, and Miami. Kevin, who do you feel like are the one or two teams that might be the more apt to become Cinderella this year?
I like the path for VCU. North Carolina feels gettable here in that first round matchup. Illinois kind of slumping. That would be their second round game. So I'm certainly intrigued by that. I think they're playing great. I think we've won 16 of the last 17. And then further down the bracket, if you're looking for that like 13 seed and above, I think Hofstra has a real chance against Alabama. I felt that way even before the Aiden Holloway news. That's something that obviously impacts the Bama ceiling quite a bit. But Hofstra's got two phenomenal guards in Preston Edmeade and Cruz Davis. Super fun to watch. Love those guys. And they also defend the rim at an elite level. They're top 5 in the country in 2-point defense. It's a pretty good combination when you're trying to pull an upset. So I really think Hofstra has a real chance in that one. And if they win it, I mean, who knows? Texas Tech has stumbled here of late without JT Toppin. The bracket sets up well for the Pride if they can pull the first one off.
So you mentioned Toppin, and that's affected Tech. BYU lost Saunders, and although they've been playing okay, that still affected them. Then Mikal Brown now out with Louisville, and there's others as well. Which injury of a team is probably the one that's the most death nail that they will not get to a Final Four? Is it going to be Toppin at Tech or someone else?
Man, it's a good question. I do think the Caleb Wilson injury is probably the most devastating, because I really thought North Carolina had a ceiling. It was up and down at times, but I thought Wilson was the type of guy who could take over. You give Texas Tech credit. I mean, analytically, they're basically the same team with and without him. You don't know that will totally stick, especially in the tournament. But they won at Iowa State without JT Toppin, and they still have Christian Anderson. They still have tons of talent. So I'm still a relative believer in Tech, but certainly that the injury kills a lot of their ceiling in this tournament, no question.
Have you found the secret audio of Sean Miller with his coach after the shot by Mark went in, and Ryan Johnson or Anderson ran on the court as deep as he did?
Yeah, it's a good thing that Ryan Anderson has a lot of equity built up with Sean over the years, and they've been together for a while. They have a great relationship, and that was not Ryan's finest moment. He will probably not live that one down in the office for a while. But yeah, thankfully for all involved, it was just a learning lesson with nothing more than a little bit of embarrassment. Didn't cost him a game.
Enjoy. I know you do, covering college basketball in the tournament, Kevin. Great stuff. Thanks for jumping on with us today. Have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Kevin Sweeney, Sports Illustrated. Yeah. When Miller started getting on him immediately, Johnson, the first time, he kept doing like, it's on me. And okay, maybe Miller went to go coach the team again, and then came back and just grilled him even more so. But hopefully that, I'm sure things calm down as they get to the second round. And now, of course, they do play BYU. When we come back, 365 Sports, Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. If you have not hit the like button, please do if you're in the chat room. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do. If you have, please share it with somebody else and ask them to do it. We would appreciate that. And this is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. They've got some unbelievable deals that just dropped. Stellantis dropped some new discounts, offers, and more. Fireworks for Alan Samuels, including the spring selling season celebration of deals that has a 2026 Ram 1500 Lone Star. This is one of their absolute reliable go-tos, among others. Now combines 2.9% financing for 72 months, and on top of that, $5,250 in a rebate. Want a lower payment? Well, choose 4.9% for 84 months and get $5,250 back for a rebate. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, the 2026 Ram 1500 Lone Star, 2.9% financing, 72 months plus the $5,250 in a rebate. That is going on right now. Ted Teague, the general manager and CEO. David Gray handles the entire sales department, and he's somebody that I call when I get my car checked up like once or twice a year, and he'll help me out with the loaner, and he's great to deal with too. They have them ready, pre-owned and brand new, on the lot. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
We're celebrating the declaration of deals at Allen Samuels in Waco. Right now, get $11,000 off a new Ram 1500 Lone Star, plus 2.9% for 72 months. Cash in on $11,000 off a new Ram 2500 Lone Star Crew Cab, or choose 0% for 36 months, plus no payments for 90 days. Feel secure with America's best full-size truck powertrain 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty at Allen Samuels.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
College football news and notes. Some spring practices opened up over the weekend and also this week. Craig, let's get to that first. The list of teams that have started, because next week there's another wave, and then eventually by the end of April everybody would have been wrapped up. But of the teams that have started recently or starting this week when it comes to spring football.
Do you have the list on hand by any chance?
Oh, no, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I did. I don't have the list on me right here, but yeah, there's been several teams that have started this week. Texas was one of those, and we've got a few that are now off the ground. I will try to pull it up here as far as the schedule goes. But, yeah, it's been kind of in the backdrop of the World Baseball Classic and the NCAA tournament and all those different things. And it's not nearly as big of a deal as it used to be, that's for sure. But I still find it of interest and still been cool to kind of have it going on. I know talking to Dave Aranda tomorrow, it'll be nice to kind of pick his brain and then get over for a practice or two probably this spring and just be out in the sunshine and the nice weather and just watch football that doesn't have a whole lot of pressure on it at the moment, although I think there's plenty of pressure on a guy like Dave Aranda, Luke Fickell, all these others that are on the hot seats that we talked about earlier. But I don't know, how do y'all feel? Is spring ball even relevant to you at all at this point?
It's a little bit overshadowed. I'm sure in certain cities it's not, but I do think it's overshadowed right now.
I think it's not to me. And I love college football more than anything, just like you guys do. But I guess I may be getting to that, let me see what happens during the regular season kind of a thing, because I kind of have gotten over the internet hype train of, man, this guy looked great in spring. Oh,
so no,
he looked great in spring.
Is it on your radar?
No,
okay.
Not really. I mean, I'll follow it. I'm not going to be ignorant
of
it.
I'm not searching for stuff.
It's part of my job to know what's going on, what guys get hurt, where the quarterback battles are going. I just don't get involved in the hype train of it. I'm becoming more like Craig, just the facts, man. Give me Joe Friday. Just tell me the facts of this. Is this guy hurt?
Yep.
Is this guy hurt? Is this guy practicing? Is this guy not practicing? That's all I care about, because I've heard too many circle jerks about spring football was unbelievable, and then watch the 7-6 season go happen and be like, oh man, really? You guys should have played this crap in March.
I do this, and I think you guys are headed down my road 20 years later, is that as far as keeping up with things, I keep up with them. It's my job, as you said. But Nebraska's been working out for 2 weeks, and I can't tell you a damn thing. It has just not been something like, hey, let me go into Huskerpedia or whatever it is and kind of find a couple of nuggets of what's happening with the new quarterback and more, but I just haven't really just done that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different ball game than it was, and I can't seem to find that list I sent the other day that had all the dates and everything. It's been a while, so we've already had a bunch of others now start up, and I just think it's not as much of an importance as it was, as far as you knew these guys are going to be on the team next year, and I guess because they've tweaked the rules more, that this is kind of the team you're going to have. But I think you're also waiting with bated breath. Does some guy unenroll in class and then re-enroll and find some loophole to get away? Like last year, though, the last couple of years have just been pandemonium with you spring ball, you do your spring game, and then you just lose guys left and right, or you go grab guys left and right. And I definitely think that's taken off some level of the importance of it. But it's still just a time to kind of get into some of the fun things like Micah Hudson's resurgence at Texas Tech, and we talked about that the other day when Joey McGuire made the comments about how he's been growing up and he's back where he needed to be all along. And I think if you're a Texas Tech fan, spring ball is probably a bigger deal than if you are a Baylor fan or a fan of somebody who's not as big. But I think across the board, yeah, it's definitely not quite what it was. It's not lacking in storylines. I just think everybody, though, is hesitant now to get too excited about any one thing. Now, if you're in Ann Arbor, Michigan, then yeah, you're talking about Bryce Underwood. And I was reading about Kyle Whittingham talking about taking him from where he was and as good as he was as a young player to molding him and turning him into a superstar. And I'm very intrigued by that. I like hearing little tidbits like that. So I knew people, even when spring ball was at its peak, that didn't like it anyways because it still wasn't regular football. I guess just covering it, I was always intrigued because it was something else to cover. And when the program's doing well, it's a lot of fun to cover really anything and everything having to do with the program. So, yeah, there are years when it was more fun because the team was good, and there are years where I'm like, I don't care because the team's not very good. And then there's times like now where I guess it's just in the eye of the beholder. But, yeah, several teams started over the last few days.
Let me do the Big 12. Arizona opens up on March the 24th. That would be in just less than a week. Arizona State opens up on the 19th. I even saw some Kenny Dillingham video. He was talking about our young man, C.J. Fight from Tatum, who's become a hell of a player for them in his leadership. BYU's been practicing for almost a month. They opened up back on February 29th. Cincinnati opened a week ago, March the 9th. Colorado opened even before that, March the 2nd. Houston, March the 9th. We had Willie Fritz on that week. And then KU will start March 26th. Kansas State, March 26th. Oklahoma State began on March the 9th. We had Eric Morris. And Joey McGuire in Texas Tech will start in 1 week. Next, actually Tuesday. UCF, March 31st. And West Virginia, March the 7th, which was 11 days ago. And I do not have a date for the Utah Utes. So there we are with the Big 12 teams.
Yeah, Texas Tech already opened up. That's why Joey was talking last week. So, yeah, they opened up last week, I do believe. So maybe just a changing of dates there. But, yeah, they I believe, did open up on the 10th. So they're a very exciting brand right now. I think Arizona State, I saw a comment from Kenny Dillingham talking about Brian Carrington and how he thinks he's going to be a head coach one day, which if you've been following college football in Texas for a while, you know the name Brian Carrington for better or worse, or even, I guess, nationally to some extent as well. He's carved out a name for himself, but I thought that was pretty interesting that Kenny Dillingham said that he thinks he's going to be a future head coach. So a lot of excitement, I think, just getting the ball out there and seeing some of the younger guys and also just starting to wrap your arms more around the storylines. I mean, to see Brendan Sorsby out there throwing to Micah Hudson like we saw last week when they opened up, those deep balls and things like that, it's just a lot of fun to kind of whet the appetite a little bit for next season. And I think when you have an Indiana winning a national championship, that it just gives you more fuel to the fire that a Texas Tech or someone along those lines can go and do the same thing if you invest and you align the right way. So I think in that league, there was a bunch of SEC teams opening up this week, but I think in that league, there is a lot of questions beyond, like, okay, we know Texas Tech will be good, but what does it look like after that? I'm fascinated. I think the SEC is fascinating. It's not just Georgia, Bama, or bust anymore. There's Texas who damn sure better make the playoff this year. I mean, if they don't, then there's really no excuse whatsoever. They just got a big news today on a transfer offensive lineman from Western Kentucky who's probably going to be a starting guard for them. That he got his waiver approved, so he's now in the mix for them, and they've seemingly but they've seemingly corrected what they can as far as the offensive line goes. We know how much of a bugaboo that was for them last year. So, I mean, if you want to point in a certain direction towards a certain team, we can talk about them. But, yeah, there's a lot of teams getting underway, and it's exciting just to have a little bit of football because, I mean, I like basketball, but I'll be honest with you, I'd rather talk football 99.9% of the time. Even if it's March the 18th and March Madness has started, I'm still going to always be looking the direction of football and looking towards next year. So while it may not register across the board as much as it used to, I'm still very intrigued, and I guess we'll be talking on my own little podcast about more of that moving forward.
Tech had 2 practices, and then they're in spring break, and then they'll resume. Okay. I believe sometime early next week. I just texted Chris Level to get clarification on that. So they've had a couple of practices, took a break. A lot of teams have done that, and then they get back to full throttle after the spring break. Tim Pernetti of the American Conference. Do you have anything else on spring football?
No, I mean, unless there's a certain team y'all want to talk about or something. But, yeah, I just
all right, let me randomly say something.
Okay.
Penn State with Matt Campbell.
Yeah, like, I mean, this is the thing is, like, you can talk college football all year round. I mean, that's super interesting because Matt Campbell is a guy who we've heard for years is doing more with less than anybody in the country. And, oh, what an amazing job he did. And he did do an amazing job. But the fact that after all these years of speculation, he finally did leave, it's fascinating how Iowa State then suffers or stays even keel or even maybe stands to gain because Jimmy Rogers turns out to be some like dude that is just better than we even realized, and he can take over the momentum from Campbell and pick up the ball and go run with it. I think there's plenty of questions there, but the bigger piece of that, certainly Matt Campbell himself and being at a job like Penn State and what he can do with those resources, that support. He got resources and support at Iowa State, but we all know, and Iowa State fans know, we don't. I feel like sometimes we're afraid of like hurting feelings. So we got tippy toe. Like Iowa State, you fans understand. Like they know that they're not Penn State, right? Like I don't. And if you're too fragile to understand that, then I don't really need to sit there and try to pat you on the head for it. But like this is a major jump.
I think they all understand.
I think they do, but every once in a while, I wonder. Not. But you know, is it a jump up? Historically, that's undeniable. So I think to have maybe an extra layer of money or history or whatever it is that can push him to a different level. He's got that now. So the guy who always had less or did more with less now has as much as pretty much anybody in his league and most places around the country. What can he do with that now? I think that's really fascinating, and I think kind of given the path that they wound to get there, Kalani Sitake and the other names that they rifled through, I mean, eventually land on Matt Campbell was, I think, a really great hire, but I don't think it's some guarantee that he's going to be great. I think he should be really, really good based on what we know about him, but yeah, that's a really interesting storyline entering. Of course, all the new coaches are, but particularly Matt Campbell, because we talked about him for so damn long. This isn't your guy. This isn't Lane Kiffin going and taking another job. We've already seen him at USC. We've seen him at Ole Miss. We've seen him at LSU. We've seen him at Tennessee. Like, if he goes somewhere else, it's like, okay, cool. Now he's at Texas. All right, great. Guess what? It's still Lane Kiffin. It's the same thing as usual, just maybe slightly more evolved.
He's going to win. He's going to win. The only place where he kind of shit the bed was at USC, right?
Well, yeah, you get fired on the tarmac.
Yeah,
it's fair to say you did that. But, I mean, he's his own segment. That's super fascinating. But so is Matt Campbell. So, yeah, the new coaches in some of these spots are going to be really interesting. And you already get the sense that at Penn State, it's like playoffs, baby. And they've made it already. So the expectations for Matt Campbell are super high. This wasn't James Franklin got fired because he couldn't make the playoffs. It's like more or less you couldn't win the Big Ten, and then you couldn't go win a national title. And so that's a pretty high bar for Matt Campbell to have to be reaching towards. But I think he's up for the challenge, and that ought to be fascinating. And then Lane Kiffin at LSU. I mean that's God. I mean that's just.
Well, we don't have to talk about him now.
Every storyline that you can think of at its juiciest, all wrapped up into one. The program itself and the attention that it brings, the person himself and the attention he brings, the expectations, the league they're in, the number of people that now hate them more than they already hated them because of him, or whatever the case may be. Like, LSU in 2026 with Lane Kiffin at the helm is must-watch TV. There's no doubt about it. And, I'm so anxious and excited. Like, I don't want to be watching it just yet. Like, I do think it all needs to marinate a bit more. We need to have spring ball and learn more about these teams. But the 2026 season has set itself up to be one hell of a doozy, given the way 2025 ended and all the things that have taken place since.
Here's the thing about what Matt Campbell did. He gave Iowa State continuity, and he also gave them consistency. They had 2 losing seasons. His first, and then that year after they played Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship, or they went 4-8 and 21 or so, 22. But other than that, they all had winning seasons. That's just not something they're used to. And yet it was great in Ames. And now, as you said, James Franklin got fired because of a bad start last year, but they were 13-3. Is that right?
They won a playoff game.
They were 13-3, won a playoff game, played for the Big Ten championship, lost to a hell of an Oregon team, beat Boise State in the playoff, and then beaten by 3 against Notre Dame. They were on the edge of playing for the national title. That's where the expectation, that's where the bar is.
And then they lost to Oregon again last year, and that moment took all the air out of the balloon for Penn State. It was just, I wonder what would happen had they won that game. And
it was the UCLA game that was the killer, right?
That was the killer after, but they had, I mean, they were playing really well, and then they lost, and of course then Drew Aller gets hurt and all those different things.
They lost 6 in a row after they lost the Oregon, and then the loss at UCLA was the one that was it killed him. It was it after that. It was after that. So there we are with Matt Campbell and Iowa State. All right, let's go to one more team when it comes to the Big 12. You mentioned Iowa State. How about Cincinnati and Scott Satterfield? We did that. Coaches on the hot seat. He's been in and out of that list. He was not in the top 10. He was out, others receiving votes, and what Cincinnati will do and what they expect to do and the expectations for them this year.
I don't have high expectations for them. Yeah, they did. They lost Brendan Sorsby, one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country, to an in-conference rival. Well, I guess not a rival, but an in-conference team. I don't have a lot of high expectations for Cincinnati. I think they're in a weird spot as a program. moved off of Wes Miller like they probably should have, and I don't think they're far from pulling the trigger on Scott Satterfield, but it's his own making. They start off really well. They fade down the stretch. They do it every year now, seemingly, even though it's only been, I guess, maybe a couple seasons in a row. It's a pattern, and I think that there's just a lot of question marks as far as the talent level with what you've lost now, not just Sorsby, but guys moving on to graduation and the draft, and a team that I admittedly need to learn more about this spring, which is what spring football is for, because I feel like there's probably some things that I'm missing out on that should raise them maybe a little bit higher than my expectations. But, yeah, the team that I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around as far as where they fit into the big picture, and I can't be ultra optimistic when their best player is gone, and it wasn't due to graduation. I just feel like that was such a kick in the gut, as expected or unexpected as it was, that it's hard to see how they're better at quarterback. And when quarterback was so much of what made you good to begin with, not that it was the only thing, but it was a large part of why you were as dangerous or formidable as you were. And yes, defensively as well, and yes, you had some offensive skill guys, but they're a big question mark for me in the Big 12 this year.
They won 7 straight after a game in which they should have won or had a chance to win late in the game against Nebraska in that game that was on a neutral field, and then they just got drilled by Utah, and their season went in the tank, losing 5 in a row to end the season. So, yeah, you're and then they got beaten in the bowl game badly by Navy 35-13.
I mean, we'll see. J.C. French, they had to replace Sorsby with J.C. French. Don't know a ton about him other than what I've read like everybody else, but hard to imagine that he's an upgrade. If he can live up to Sorsby and what Sorsby did, then that would be incredible. But, like I said, I think they're a big-ass question mark in the Big 12. I don't think they're top of mind. I don't think that they're in the running for the worst team in the league necessarily either. But I do think that's more of an interesting race because Oklahoma State was the de facto worst team in the league for about 2 years there. Oklahoma State's obviously reversed their fortunes in a major way, at least on paper, and I think that will reflect in their record as well. But Cincinnati, you could tell me, finishes last in the league, and I'd probably sit there and think about it like, yeah, okay, I could see that. I don't think that they've done anything that makes you think that they will suddenly be in the running or be a better team winning the conference title or playing for it or anything along those lines. So, yeah, I have a lot of questions about them. I'm going to do my research throughout the next few months, and maybe that'll help answer some of those questions. But for the time being, kind of what we know, they are not one of the first maybe couple handfuls of teams that I think most people – if you just say, talk Big 12 ball, they're going to say Texas Tech and Arizona State, and they're maybe going to bring up TCU and 2 or 3 other storylines. But, yeah, I think Cincinnati's kind of I don't want to call them an afterthought, but they are, I think, towards the rear of, like, the most intriguing things going on in the league and what's top of mind for most people.
I didn't realize that they just I knew they had a bad ending, but losing – 5 in a row after being 7-1.
That's entirely the reason
awful.
Scott Satterfield's maybe in danger of losing his job, is they've done that 2 years in a row.
Yeah, the year before that they did it and didn't even make the bowl game. They just floundered. So there we are with it, and we'll be doing that, looking in on a program or two and getting to that. Here are some other football notes, and then Brian, you got something else?
No.
Then Brian Estridge, voice of TCU. We mentioned a few days ago that Tim Pernetti, who's the commissioner of the American Conference, was up for the job as the NFLPA director. He is staying at the American Conference. He sent out, that's the statement there. But one of the things that he mentioned, grateful to the American Conference presidents for their commitment to the conference's future, leadership on key decisions, particularly in recent weeks, including discussions regarding the grant of rights, exit fees, and the strengthening of resources within the conference, because they've been rated. As others, then they get rated. Will enable us to innovate at the pace this moment demands. Those decisions create stability, reinforce the conference's direction, and position the American to keep moving forward. In other words, just like a coach who gets a job offer, they get more, whether it's a raise or something. And Tim Pernetti and the American Conference, he's getting more for him to want to do what he wants to do with that conference. That's at times really good despite all the teams that they've lost.
I think that's very good news for the American Conference to have some stability and to have a guy who clearly has their best interest in mind. And I think to lose him at this juncture, not that he's irreplaceable, and it's a league incapable of finding new leadership, but I do think at this, I guess, point in time where decisions are so critical, especially for a league like that, to have a guy who's stood strong for you and been proactive and kind of knows the lay of the land as far as what's going on. I think that's a good thing for the American. And if there's an American fan out there who pays much closer attention and there's some decision he's made that's awful and you were wishing he was out the door, then I'd be intrigued or interested to hear that. But based on what I've seen, outside of disagreeing with him on the fact that they're on the same level as like the Big 12 or whatever, I don't put the Big 12 on some pedestal where there's some, like, I'm not unrealistic about it, but I am also not going to sit there and pretend like the American and the Big 12 are also on the same exact footing. I do think that he's done a good job of positioning them to be amongst the best of the rest, if you will. And certainly that's a conference that was hit very hard primarily by the Big 12 here recently.
Yep.
So they've had to figure some things out, and he's done a good job in helping them manage all of that. So I feel like that's a great thing to hear if you're an American Athletic Conference fan.
Yeah,
and tell me if I'm wrong.
When all that was going on, the craziness of realignment, et cetera, and a mass in the Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, the SEC gets Texas OU, there was, remember, the Bob Bowlesby cease and desist to the American Conference to stop being and talking to our guys. And that kind of slowed things down for the Big 12 to have a chance to regroup, and they added BYU, Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati.
Now, there's a layer to this. I think Tim Pernetti would have been the best person they could have hired at the NFLPA. I think Tim Pernetti took himself out of that race because while he was a finalist, the two finalists are the two guys they kind of wanted to pit against each other, and he was the third one. So I think he took himself out of that. And let's watch this NFLPA process. I watched a Pablo Torre finds out about it, a couple of them, and there's a lot going on there at the NFLPA that's not good in the leadership right now. I would just encourage you if you want to know what I'm talking about, but it is – it's just a lot of bad stuff, and it's not going to be good for a potential work stoppage.
Yeah, the guy that got the job,
J.C.
Tretter, he was actually telling players to fake injuries.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, no,
it's not good. It's not a good thing.
And now he's representing the players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing to keep in mind with Pernetti is I think maybe you're confusing some of him with Oresco.
No, I'm talking about the American Conference, not so much Pernetti.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, because he's not been around that long.
And the Big 12 sent a cease and desist to the American Conference when Oresco was there, but it's the conference I was talking about that has been rated, not so much. Pernetti's done a nice job since he got there.
Yeah, I mean, it's only been a couple years, but I think that they've handled their business pretty well, and I believe it was Oresco that I was thinking of that was putting out those comments back during that transition period, so I wanted to clarify on that. But, yeah, I think the last thing you want is too much turnover. So good news for the American, and yeah, we'll see how that works for them moving forward.
I'm muting your microphone. We're going to mute it. All right. When we come back, we'll have Brian Estridge, voice of TCU Athletics, on the Jamie Dixon men's basketball team, and maybe a nugget or two about the Frogs, as of course what they expect and need to get done during their spring football practices as well. And this is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. My dentist is Dr. Steve Childress. I started to go to him during the year of COVID. He got me like focused on what I need to do to help overcome, which was just things that will start to happen as you get older. And I took care of what I did with teeth and even flossing, but some things started to develop, and a root pulled here, or a tooth pulled here, a root canal there. This guy, I would go into him knowing if I had 4 things that I had to get done in one setting, and he would do them, by the way. Steve Childress in Robinson, Texas has Stonewood Dental. They have 5 dentists. They have a phenomenal business, and they also are really good to you, the patient, because I would know, as an example, at Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
Join the celebration. It's 27 years for Richard Car Motors, and we're celebrating with big anniversary savings. Encore GX offers stylish design, a quiet, refined ride, advanced safety, and a premium interior. Right now, during Richard Car's 27th anniversary sale, save $5,000 on any 2026 Buick Encore GX in stock. Thank you, Central Texas, for 27 years. Log on, call, or come by today to find big anniversary savings now.
At Richard Car, we give you more.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
This is 365 Sports.
I saw TCU men's basketball earlier this year at the Foster Pavilion. They always win in Waco since they opened that up, and they beat Baylor in almost every sport. Brian Estridge, he joins us, voice of TCU. He's done a lot of those games, football, men's basketball, and more. And Jamie Dixon just seems to find a way, Brian. How much do you feel like at times he might be under the radar or underrated as a coach?
What a way to welcome me to Waco when you say and TCU just beats them in every sport.
Well, it's true, is it?
You know, now my email's just going to blow up, and they're going to think I had something to do with it.
You sent me a liner and said, "Read it like this" to introduce me.
John Morris is texting me as we speak. Good grief! I think you're dead on. I'll be honest with you. And I'm not saying that because I'm the voice of TCU Horned Frogs. By the way, I hate calling myself that. But anyway, I think that Jamie Dixon is underrated. If you base it on just a couple of things, one is what he gets out of his players. And I think he maximizes the talent that he has here on this roster. And then the second thing is how the roster is put together. This is uncomfortable to say, David. When you look at this roster, it is the 14th payroll in the Big 12, all right? And they finished, 6th in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. To me, that's overachieving. And so you've got to be a really good judge of talent with the money that you have to spend. I think he's done that. And then once you get the players here, you have to continue to develop them. And I think that's important as well. TCU's been to the NCAA tournament 12 times in the history of the school. You've probably seen every one of those. I haven't. The 12 times that they've been in the NCAA tournament, of those 12 times, 6 of them have involved Jamie Dixon. That tells you how important he is to this program. For many a year, this was a program that was languishing in a non-tournament desert. And I was living through it with 4 head coaches. But Jamie Dixon somehow has restored that, or at least brought it to TCU, I guess is a better way to put it, to where it's now old hat. And I think you may be onto something that he is underrated.
This matchup with Ohio State, the 8-9s are a blessing and a curse, right, Brian? Like you kind of feel confident it's an even matchup, but – man, it's just so hard to get a read on what advantages you might or might not have. What have you seen from Ohio State that lets you believe that TCU might have the upper hand here?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different things. By the way, good to see you, Paul. The 8-9 team too. The 8-9 game always though intrigues you because those are usually really good games. But then the bad news is you look ahead to the next round and you realize who you have to play in that second round of the 8-9. But this is an Ohio State team that's very similar to TCU's. I think they're playing their best basketball here at the end of the season. They're 21-12. They went 1-1 in the tournament, in the Big Ten tournament, much like TCU. They were above 500 in the Big Ten at 12-8. I think the thing that stands out to me though is Bruce Thornton, the point guard. I mean, here's a guy who has been a 4-year player at Ohio State. He went through a coaching change. This is kind of a throwback. He didn't leave. He stayed, and now you got a guy who averages 21 points a game. And look at it, the thing that stands out to me is he dishes the basketball, 130 assists or so, but he shoots 56% from the floor. That's a point guard shooting 56% from the floor and averaging 21 points a game. So that to me is going to be interesting. Now the good news is I think TCU's perimeter defense has been pretty solid this year. I think these guards, they can get a little bit bigger there at times with Micah Robinson and with Tanner Toolson and guys like that. Jaden Pierre has been a guard that's been matched up on the best player for the opposition much of this second half of the season. So I think maybe they can disrupt Thornton a little bit, but and then TCU's size, they won't be overwhelmed by Ohio State, even though TCU doesn't sport the biggest lineup. David Punch, who's from Harker Heights, right down the road from you guys, plays bigger than he is. Xavier Edmonds plays bigger than he is, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. I just think that this is a team in TCU that wants to dominate and own the glass, and I think Ohio State has had struggles there this year, Paul, and I think that could be a really advantage. If you can out rebound your opponent in the NCAA tournament, play solid defense, you got a really good chance.
Brian, I love asking the play-by-play guys this. The Big 12, just such a juggernaut. I think that's evident by the rankings and all of that and the expectation for a lot of teams to go deep. But what's it been like for you to have a up-close view at all these different arenas and different locations from a basketball perspective, and to see what some of the newer faces have brought to the table and just how this league has continued to evolve basketball-wise?
Yeah, I mean, Craig, it starts with Arizona, doesn't it? I mean, that was the best basketball team I'd seen in a long, long time. I'll be honest with you. We had some good ones in the previous version of the Big 12, but I thought that Arizona team was outstanding. I thought Tommy Lloyd did a terrific job managing all of that as well. So I mean, that obviously comes to mind. Houston and what they bring, that toughness, that edge. I mean, it's a game that you walk into it and you're just going, oh, I'm dreading this. I mean, this is just going to be a rock fight for two and a half hours, and they are. I mean, so Cincinnati got better down the stretch. Central Florida is the UCF's obviously the surprise of the league for Johnny Dawkins. He went about it a little differently, with who and how he picked that roster. And then I think if Arizona State hires who I think they're going to hire. Then look out, fellas, because I think Arizona State, I mean, they've always been a program that you kind of scratch your head at. It's like, how do they not win in everything? I mean, it's such a great place. And Craig, you've seen the co-eds down there. I mean, how do they not win? And so, I think that, I think the new additions have been great. BYU's obviously been spectacular. Utah will get better. They got great tradition. They're going to redo the arena. So I love it. I mean, but I think it also seasons you. It gets you ready for what we're about to see here come tournament time. And so, that's why I think that this team, I talked to Trent Johnson, and David, you know Trent well. I know the former head coach at TCU, and got kind of a bad rap, but he's one hell of a guy and a hell of a coach. And he called me yesterday out of the blue, and he said, I'm telling you, Brian, he said, this TCU team, they've been through the trenches, and you watch them. He said, I think they're put together for a long run in this tournament. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. We'll have to wait and see. But I thought that was an interesting perspective from a former coach who got let go at that institution to come out and say, hey, I think they're built for this.
By the way, I remember Paul Catalina a few years ago telling me that he thought Arizona State had the most beautiful views of any campus other than Florida State, and he wasn't talking about the mountains.
No, it must have. He told me too. It was the racks. I'm assuming ribs. I'm not sure what he was talking about.
That was me in a bygone era. That's over now.
Yeah. All right, Brian. I do have this. So TCU has beaten Florida and Wisconsin, Iowa State, Texas Tech. They had a loss to Michigan. We know how good they are. And then losses to KU twice, BYU, Arizona, etc. But they have some bad losses. That doesn't make sense.
What are you going to call it? You're going to call the New Orleans game a bad loss? To open the season?
It's first games of the year. I saw Texas Southern one time come into Waco and beat Scott Drew and a team that ended up going to the Elite Eight or something like that. So that can happen.
They didn't have Master P as a general manager.
There you go.
UNO had Master P as a general manager. I mean, so
okay.
Who knew what they put together? The road loss at Colorado was bad.
Yeah.
That was a bad loss. The loss at Utah was bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think those kind of stand out. And this team was kind of in a funk at that point, I'll be honest with you. But, that's where I think you got to give Jamie, credit for sort of riding the ship, made a couple of adjustments in the lineup. Micah Robinson inserted into the starting lineup, and I think TCU's 8-2 since that's happened. Some coaches wouldn't do that. And he shrunk the rotation. I mean, this is a 7-man rotation right now, essentially.
Brian, what do you think about the Big 12's chances, the rest of the league, and how deep? Who do you think goes the deepest of the Big 12?
Arizona. I mean, I go back to that's one of the best basketball teams I've seen, fellas. I mean, I just think they are. I think they're. I think they can play any game you name. Obviously Houston with what they do defensively. With folks, I don't think they're as gifted, talent. I don't think they're as gifted offensively as they have been. But I just think that those two teams are just they got something about them. I think they're really special basketball teams, and I'm anxious to see how they do. Central Florida can get hot too, by the way.
Yeah, they can fill it up.
UCF if they're on, they play as well as anybody. So I don't know about Kansas. I don't know if they're made for this. It's a lot of games in a few amount of days, and some of them don't like that.
I don't think that's a fair assessment.
Oh my God, that was so obvious. Yeah. Just say his name.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I just don't know. I don't know if they're ready for it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of games.
That's good.
Well, listen, he can, and I have to stick up for my wife here. He can talk that trash, but Darren Peterson did come back and win the game against TCU.
Oh yeah. I listen.
You saw his best moment. Actually, I think that was his best moment of the whole season.
May have been. Yeah, very, very well could have been. Yeah. I mean, listen, he is a very special player. I'm not poking fun at him. I'm just saying I don't know if that team is built for multiple games and multiple days like that.
How would you describe a Jamie Dixon basketball team most year in and year out?
They're kind of a grinded out team, how would I describe it? I was trying to think of an analogy that I can clean up here, but that might not work. Though I guess it's one of those deals where it kind of feels like, hey, I don't want to go to the prom with you, but I just want to see if you would go with me. She's not always pretty, man. It's not always a thing of beauty, but in the end, they figure out a way to make it happen. They're not a great shooting team, and he's talked about that, and that he thought they would be a better shooting team, and he thought that would happen, or he hopes that happens here. But they're going to outwork you. They just work their tails off. I was talking to an athletic director yesterday who's thinking about hiring Scott Cross. And did it happen today, by the way?
I have not seen that. I used to cover him when he was a player at Tyler Junior College.
Yeah. Scott Cross, who was at UTA and now is the head coach at Troy. He's about to get a Power 4 job, I think. And so I told him he coached with Jamie Dixon. He's a lunch bell guy.
Yep.
That's what this team is. They just bring their lunch to work every day, plug in and get to 8 to 10 hours with their boots on, and they get it done.
Brian, basketball the focus right now, but football's always there. I know the Frogs are going to be opening up here in a few days, and I'm super intrigued by Jaden Craig because I don't know what to expect whatsoever. Just kind of how would you summarize sort of just, I guess, your mindset heading into these spring practices, which I know aren't quite what they used to be, but it's still a little bit of football for to tide us over until the season starts.
I love the fact too, by the way, Craig, that people are even using the word or the phrase, the acronym OTAs.
Yeah,
They're even calling it that now. Are we just going to get to that? Yeah,
Right.
and just it all just becomes that, which we probably should. The way the schedule is anyway anymore. Yeah, I'm just like you. I'm intrigued. I'm anxious to see. There's a lot returning on this team. You lost some really good players, but you didn't lose guys in the portal other than one that was really high impact. And so what does that mean? As a team that won 9 games, schedule this year, I think is really good for TCU. Other than the trip to Dublin, the Frogs only get on a plane essentially twice, and those are to Tucson and to Orlando. So you don't have to worry about weather or things of that nature. So I just think I think it's going to be one of those years where if everything falls right, it could be a really special year for TCU. I know Sonny's excited. I'm like you though. I'm intrigued by the quarterback. I've talked to guys who talk to people, and they all say, look, he's a third, fourth, fifth round draft pick, and they see that they see that in him now. He's a big kid who can throw it. He can run it as well. I think the offense is going to look a lot different. I think it'll be more physical, bringing in the guys from UConn that want to run the football first. And they took great care of the football last year. You saw those numbers. They didn't turn it over. And so, I'm anxious to see how it all plays out. And we're going to know here starting next week when they do hit the field for the first time in the spring.
And clearly he's intelligent as well, being from Harvard.
You bring up a great point. When I heard that he was coming from Harvard to TCU, my first question seriously was, has he graduated?
Yeah.
Because I didn't want him to leave without that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And fortunately for him, he had graduated, because it's like, hey, man, you finish that out.
Yeah, I'd have to question the smarts a little bit if you left before you got that Harvard degree. Yeah, so he's clearly very smart. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad he got it done. So, he's clearly smart, and obviously comes from a great family. From what I've been told, I had a chance to meet his mother, and so I think it's going to be fun to watch how he plays, how he does at this level. It'll be different for him, but I'm one of those goofy guys. I'll watch those Friday night Ivy League games on occasion. And see what they're like, and what's the guy's name? Jack Ford does a color on those games. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Jack Ford's a color analyst on a lot of those Ivy League TV games on Friday night. So I like listening to those guys and watching them, and so we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk to you at least once before the season.
Hope.
But have you been to Ireland before? I was just curious.
I've not. I've been to a few Irish pubs in my day.
Oh, shocking! Shocking!
Yeah, but those are all here in the States. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. You get to play Bill Belichick in North Carolina one more time. That'll be a train wreck, I'm sure. But let's see how it all plays out. But I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to go over on Wednesday, play on Saturday, come back Sunday or Monday, then have the next week off is how they're going to operate it. So, I think it's going to be a good trip. A lot going on. Golly.
Yeah,
I know. When you did the game with North Carolina with Belichick in his debut, did you ever get any time talking with him, or am I asking a dumb question?
One time, but it was just a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
A lot of one-word answers. He didn't want to be there. I didn't particularly want to be there either, so it was easy.
No, he everybody hates the media until they need to work at it, don't they?
Exactly, until they need the paycheck.
Yeah.
Look at all the money we're making. Do you blame them?
No, exactly not. Yeah. Anytime somebody wants to hop in, that's fine. The water's warm.
I think Sterling Sharp was probably the one who hated the media the most, that then became an analyst. He was He was one of them. He was one of them.
He hated it. He wouldn't talk to me.
No, Art Monk didn't talk to the media either, and I don't know if he just didn't trust him. He never got into it because he was kind of a soft-spoken guy, great player. But he didn't either. Hey, Brian, it's great to see you, and good luck. Enjoy it. Hope the TCU makes a really nice run starting this week with Ohio State.
Yeah. Hey, do you guys like how I've decorated the place here since I've been in Greenville, South Carolina? I feel pretty good about it.
I think the picture to your left shoulder needs to go. The lamp in the background.
Yeah.
Was it
maybe a little crowded?
Is that Home Goods? Did you get that at Home Goods? It looks very
Home
Goods.
How did you know? Yeah.
Yeah, it looks very Home Goods.
So all right, fellas.
You're the best, buddy. Thanks, Brian. Have fun. Brian
Bye-bye.
Estridge, voice of TCU. He's as good as it gets, and appreciate his time on both the Frogs in basketball, but also football in the spring for them too.
Well, basketball is in a good spot, and they've made that program relevant, and to the point where you're like, I think they could topple Ohio State. That's actually probably one of the trendier picks I've seen as far as upsets go in the first round. Is that one, which is not some massive I didn't see that coming, because you're talking 8 and 9, but that's a great opportunity for TCU, and I think Jamie Dixon's done a great job there. And then on the football side, I'm just super intrigued by Jaden Craig. I didn't think about the fact that he may or may not have had his degree when he transferred, but I'm glad to hear that, yes, he was smart enough, the Harvard kid, to finish his Harvard degree before going to TCU, although TCU is a great institution. But, I can't imagine. I got 3.5 years towards my Harvard degree only to leave to go pursue football. So I'm glad that he wasn't he made the right choice there, and now can finish out his career, and he's definitely got his future secure, and we'll see what the football future looks like. But I've heard nothing but good things about him. I mean, you do automatically go, all right, Ivy League to the Big 12, but how much of a separation is there really, these days? I don't know. I don't think it's like learning a new game all of a sudden. It's still just football. He's going to have better players around him going up against better players.
Yeah,
but
we've seen many guys make that move, even from the Ivy League or whatever, where they seem like they're just as good. If not, they might even have better players to around them to make them better too.
Although I don't know how often he was being pursued by like David Bailey types off the edge in the Ivy League. So that'll be somewhat new. But I think TCU's another, again, I'll probably cover more of this on my podcast that I'll be doing, just some of the spring stuff and things like that, because I am interested in it. But TCU, I think every team's intriguing basically right now, because there's just so many questions and answers. And in that way, it actually is a little bit more fun than it used to be, because you don't know nearly as much as you think that you might. Whereas you just kind of knew back in the day, all right, the same team is the same team is the same team is the same team, and you add freshmen, and that's basically all you ever do. And every once in a while you add a junior from junior college, and that's all that you do. But now it's so much turnover that it's impossible to really know what's what at all times, much less by just the time spring rolls around. So this will help answer a lot of position battles and just kind of who's where and what. Oh, yeah, that's right, that guy went there, and those types of things. But, Jaden Craig at TCU with a QB coach like Sonny Dykes, new OC coming over from a successful program in UConn, that's intriguing to me.
If you were to transfer away from Ivy League, any of them, before you got your degree, then you shouldn't have been at that school in the first place. You're smarter than that. But I'm glad he got the degree, and that makes sense, and then to move on.
Yeah, so you're replacing Kendall Briles now. UConn's been very successful under Jim Moore, to the point that he got that Colorado State job. So we'll see what Samus does as far as under the guidance of Sonny Dykes. But I think UConn's a program that's shown its worth, and was really good last year, really good last couple years, and that's just an intriguing bunch. New OC, new QB. That's the case at a lot of places, but TCU's been one of those that you can just typically feel like it's going to be in that 8-win range, almost like that's where you start. And it may vary a little bit, but it's around the 8 wins at worst, basically. So that's probably about where I'd put them right now. I think the Ireland trip is a real wild card, because you don't know what that's going to look like afterwards. And we know some teams handle it and they're okay, and then other teams, typically the ones that lose, don't ever recover from it. Which one will they be?
K-State, Florida State, Nebraska are three that come to my mind.
Literally all of them.
Yeah.
And I, as a Red Sox fan, I believe in curses. And the curse of the leprechaun is real.
Yeah,
it is
Don't say that so close
real.
to St. Patrick's Day being yesterday.
Oh, it's over. But no, the curse of the leprechaun's real.
Yeah, that's what Bracket Cat just put in the chat room. Yep.
It's real.
Yeah, I think that'll be a fun trip, but it's one that you kind of weigh the benefits versus the risks, and I think we all think there's some level of risk with taking a trip of that magnitude. To the point where, yes, the losers have certainly suffered. The winners have also not necessarily ever really gotten back on track fully as well. So we'll see where TCU falls on that. But that's at least a fun little marquee game to open things up with, just simply with, TCU's TCU, so they'll get some love and respect. But being on the other side of that train wreck in Chapel Hill And at a time where that school's trying to position itself to take a step towards one of the two top leagues, all while doing so in a scenario where you've got like tabloid headlines surrounding your head coach and just all of that. It's who knows what to expect from the Tar Heels this year. I have no idea, although I know right now I would definitely pick TCU in that football game, knowing that there's plenty of questions on both sides. But yeah, give me Sonny Dykes and give me Jaden Craig to go to Ireland and win that first football game.
Some of you talking about TCU and much more. We appreciate you. We do watching us. Thank you very much. Rez running the mothership. Garrett Ross just ran a lot of different stuff all throughout the day. Just walked out. Andrew Valade is here. And we are at 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. We do have Paul's Top 5, the wheel, quizzes, and poll results at the bottom of the hour. Let's just stay right here. I got a couple more stories to get to. Go ahead.
Can y'all plug the bracket for those who maybe haven't signed up
Rez,
yet?
do we have the link to the bracket? We had a nice chunk of people. I filled out my bracket like Sunday night.
Mine will be done later tonight.
I used to just go crazy on that thing and overthink it. And me and my brain overthinking anything is dangerous. Kalshi is the password. It's the ESPN bracket challenge, but it is with the 365 Sports. We appreciate Kalshi for their sponsorship. And I'll put the link back up in the chat room in just one moment.
I'll go ahead and tell you I am picking a Big 12 team to win the national championship. I won't tell you how many are in the Final Four or if there's more than one, but I am picking a Big 12 team to win the title. So I'll leave it there until I put my official bracket in later tonight. But I have settled on that at least. I've just got some like second-round decisions to make, although I know where most of my choices have already lied. I got like a couple I just haven't filled in yet that I just need to go round out.
I did mine, and I did not tell you exactly who I did with my Final Four because I'm attention deficit.
So
I
was made to.
I need to correct it because I did it earlier and I was wrong. I gave the wrong teams.
Okay.
That's the only reason. UConn, Houston, Arizona, and Michigan. Okay, go ahead. We'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think I got like 3 of the 4 wrong.
You made me do mine yesterday. I don't think that's fair.
You're damn right I did.
Yeah.
Okay, when we come back, there's a couple of nuggets. I want to do a couple of football nuggets because by tomorrow it's going to be Jake Retzloff, the BYU quarterback that, of course, transferred to Tulane, will be at BYU's football pro day in Provo. He is going to be a part of that at BYU. Also, I saw this note from KU Athletics. Their game, speaking of Dublin, Ireland, this one's going to be in London. When they play Arizona State in mid-September, they get $2.7 million from the Union Jack Classic and compensation for playing this game in London, and also expenses, travel, lodging, transportation, and also much more. It's the first time since 1988 London, England, will have a college football game with 2 American teams playing each other when Arizona State plays KU on September the 19th.
Yeah, I think it's a little strange for Jake Retzloff to be at BYU and kind of be, I guess, promoted that he's going to be there, just given how that ended. I mean, it's good that they have a good relationship, and I don't think BYU itself, and especially the football players or the coaches, were like anti-Jake Retzloff all of a sudden. That's still very much a he said, she said type of situation, although clearly the investigators thought a certain way about it, and the fact that he was involved in anything led to his dismissal. So I'm sure he left on good terms there. But given the nature of it's not even a dismissal, right? Didn't he left basically on his own terms.
Yeah, I think it was.
He was asked to leave.
I guess because of that, it's not technically like he was dismissed. Because had he been officially dismissed, then I do think it would have been very odd to then be back like you never left.
He could have served like a 7 or 8 game suspension, whatever it was,
right,
and come back and played. But playing the last 5 games of the season would not have helped a guy who's trying to get drafted into the NFL. So he, decided to transfer. Like that's how.
So I think
I thought that was a little awkward. I'm just telling you, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think it's a little awkward if you don't realize that those are the details of it, though. Like once you understand that I can see where you'd still bog down on the nature of it all. But I think the fact that he made his own choice as opposed to them like booting him out probably makes him being back not as awkward or weird, but it's still a little bit awkward and weird given how that all ended. So good luck to him. I suppose I know that Chase Roberts was hanging around there. I saw that little note in passing as well, which I'd expect to be the case. So yeah, they're going to have some pro prospects. They should have had a lot more actually, but a bunch of those guys decided to all come back to school this year. They had a boatload of guys that could have all entered the NFL draft early, and that bodes well for them next season. So we'll see where the chips fall. I know there's very, very high expectations there, but yeah, that's another one of those pro days. And I guess those are a little bit less on the radar now that they're not all centered in Frisco, to where you're seeing it all. Now that they're scattered back at their own home campuses, going to have to remind myself that those are ongoing as well. But BYU next year's pro day ought to be really, really salty, I would think, given all the guys that decided to come back.
Yeah, that Baylor's got theirs coming up this weekend. I don't know. I think I'll go out there. I don't even know who's going to be in it. I know that Josh Campbell will try to run since he couldn't run yet. Well, yeah, obviously Sawyer. And I'm not sure about anybody else after that. There'll be a handful. And there'll be some players
Michael
that may have
Trigg.
played. Mary Hardin Baylor. Michael Trigg, one of the top tight ends as well. I asked you if you wanted to go. You didn't want to go.
I don't want to go on Sunday
Paul, you want to go?
the pro day. No.
When was the last time you were on the campus?
On the campus at Baylor, it's been a minute. Yeah, and I was asked about this.
And McLean Stadium counts. So you?
No, I was there. I was at McLean
once or twice.
Yeah,
but you sit in the luxury boxes. It doesn't count.
And it's just. I've been to so many Baylor events. I just needed a break.
Okay,
it was
you've
the
had
only
your break,
thing.
so we'll be at all home games next year.
I will not. No, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, we cover the college football. All right.
Well, then I can go cover other college football games.
There you can. There you go.
There
Go
we
back
go.
to Orlando.
Yeah.
Go back to Orlando.
I would love that.
I'm going to save these two stories for tomorrow, college football related. We'll have Paul's top 5 in a minute. Anyone have anything else you want to say before we start the closeout this half hour at 5?
No. I don't think I have any grand proclamation to make or anything along those lines. I'll tell you that the Smoke Break podcast, which I was doing more so during football season, and get back to doing that. And it will 99% of the time be on college football, although I think my first one will probably be on the WBC, which will be heading your way tomorrow, because I just want to talk about that a little bit more before I turn the page. But some of the spring stuff that y'all aren't interested in or is just not really like top of mind, I'll be diving further into some of those kind of things and just whatever else on the Smoke Break. So be on the lookout for that on the channel.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll have a couple more college football stories that we're going to use today, but we'll push them back until tomorrow. There is one story that's happening. The Big Ten, we'll look at this tomorrow, get deeper into it, is pushing for a new roster retention carve-out that would allow schools to go over the cap in order to re-sign players. An idea would be up for a measure to function. I'm not sure how that works with other conferences, but here's one of the reasons why this story came about. Mick Cronin created a separate retainment cap, includes multiple hurdles. All parties, the House settlement, et cetera, would have to agree on this, but he said we ought to have a cap for those who are on your roster that you want to bring back that might give you more money to do that. And then you have some other cap that is the rest of your roster.
Yeah, let's get into that tomorrow when we
what
can really do
I just
it.
brought it up. Yeah.
Because I do think that that's interesting, and retention is the biggest problem, right?
Yep.
It's the biggest problem that they're facing right now, and could maybe calm the waters a little bit.
All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina at his top 5. We'll have quizzes today. We'll have the wheel today, and we appreciate you today on 365 Sports.
At Allen Samuels Dodge in Waco, we're making a declaration of deals. And these deals are so big, even fans of the Dallas Cowboys think this might finally be the year. Drive home a new Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo for just $32,990, or a new Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 for $29,990. Take $11,000 off a new Jeep Gladiator Sport, or choose 0% for 60 months. Or we pay your sales tax. Right now, no payments for 90 days. Happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Here we go, 365 Sports in the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. And here's Paul Catalina and his top 5.
Paul Catalina's top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com, use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. Today, I am making bold tourney predictions. Thank you for the timing on that graphic, Rez. It was perfect. Number 5. And I'm going to keep talking in this voice. I don't think I can sustain that, people, but I'm going to predict that a number 1 seed will fall in the Sweet 16. I don't know if it'll be Arizona. I don't know if it'll be Michigan, Florida, or Duke. I'm just saying I've got a feeling. And guess what? I didn't even pick this on my bracket. These are more, let's just call them psychic intuitions that I'm having, even though I'm not psychic and I don't believe in that stuff. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I think it's going to happen. Number 4, Vandy makes it to the Elite 8. They are hot right now. They are very hot. Mark Byington is doing a fantastic job. I expect him to be a player on the SEC scene as long as he's there, and try to say SEC scene 3 times fast. You can't do it. But I think they're going to be on that scene, on the national scene, done a really, really good job. And Vanderbilt has finally figured out that, hey, if you invest in the athletic department, the smart kids who can run and jump will want to come there. Number 3, Darren Peterson paints his masterpiece. We've seen some great games from Darren Peterson in his freshman season at Kansas, but these are the last games he's going to be playing as a Jayhawk before he jumps into the NBA draft. In spite of the teasing, Kansas fans, that he said, oh, I might run it back, I don't know. That's just teasing. He loves Kansas, he loves Bill Self, he loves his teammates, and he is yet to be fully ready to go. Well, I think it's time for the stars to shine. And I say this about Darren Peterson. I'll say it about Cam Boozer. I'll say it about Darius Acuff and a lot of these young players that are in this tournament, and this is going to be the last ride that they have with their teams. You're going to see a virtual Louvre of basketball art from these stars this year. But I'm particularly mentioning Darren Peterson because he's gotten a lot of flack this year. I think undeservedly so, in my opinion, and I think he's about to prove all those doubters wrong in this NCAA tournament, and I think he can make Kansas really, really, really elite in this run as a 4 seed. Number 2, UNC gets bounced on day 1. Hubert Davis and UNC, he got them all the way to the title game a couple of years ago when nobody expected it, and that would maybe be the same thing this year, but this team is absolutely not the same without Caleb Wilson, and he will not be there. VCU, a perennial tournament team, an 11-6 is usually going to happen, and I think it's going to be this one. I just don't think they make it off of day one. And that's unfortunate for UNC because they are a really different team with Caleb Wilson. This isn't like a few years ago where they kind of fell ass backwards into the tournament and, found their way early on and got hot. This isn't that. This is a team that was good all year, should have been in the tournament all year. I mean, the thought of it, but their star player's gone. Not as deep as that one. Things are different now. UNC bounced on day one. And number one, the Big 12 will get the most Sweet 16 teams. And I believe that because I believe it's the deepest conference at the top. I believe that everyone in this league has been roughed up by each other enough, and they are ready to unleash on the other teams. I even think UCF has a great shot of getting out of the first weekend because I like Johnny Dawkins a lot. I think he's a fantastic coach. Now, I say might there. I'm not completely certain, but even with Texas Tech injuries, they've drawn a fortunate draw in that their game on Saturday, should they beat Akron, is likely against Alabama, who is out their second leading scorer. That's going to help them. I think Iowa State's got a great draw. I think Arizona's going to win the whole thing. You've heard me talk about how much I think Kansas is doing well. I'm not even into a lot of the teams that could make it there. So I'm sticking with that. The Big 12 has the most Sweet 16 teams. Well, that's going to do it for the top five. Let's spin that wheel. When was the first time you ever used the internet, and what computer was it on?
Oh, God.
Oh, my gosh. It was on a Gateway 2000 in the early-ish 90s. America Online.
For me, it would have been probably 97-ish when I would have first been on there. And I have no earthly idea of what kind of a computer that was. I did not pay attention to those things at that point. It's just a white, bulky home computer system.
Now,
I have no clue what brand or anything like that.
My dad had a Compaq from work that I would use when my mom or my little sister didn't really need anything back then, but like those are the two. We had a Gateway 2000 that was like the family computer, and then when my dad was out of town and I needed to like type a paper, I would use that Compaq computer. That's what I would use, and then whatever we had in the computer lab at school. So
I can't remember what we did when in television. You would enter stories or whatever, and you'd type them up, but most of that was like typewriter. And then eventually that would have been like probably mid-90s, early 90s when I had like one of those, what did you call it, a compact? Well, not the
compact,
no,
Gateway?
Gateway. And yeah, I remember when you'd go dial up the internet, all that noise. Thank God. And it took me a long time to get used to those. I could always type pretty fast, but that would have been the mid-90s for me.
Yeah, I mean, I was on computers prior to that, like in classrooms and stuff a little bit, like for computer class.
Yeah.
Like literally computer class, and we'd play Oregon Trail half the time. That was the earliest, so that would have been like probably 94 or something like that. But as far as like being on the internet and whatnot,
I would
that would
say
have
it
been
was
like
probably
97.
I'm going to say it's probably like mid-90s, like 93, 94. Like whenever AOL first came out, the computer that we had was equipped for it.
AOL, it was a big deal, man. That was like,
yeah, the
keyword was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amanda, my wife, still uses AOL email. You don't get any spam.
Some people do. I mean, if you've had it your entire life, why? I mean, if it's got literally like your 25 years of emails all in the same spot, then why change to Yahoo for whatever reason?
Yeah. So I mean, I think it actually like I think it's still going strong enough that it exists. I mean, it's there.
I'm like 10 email addresses later on at this point. I couldn't even begin to even remember what my first email address must have been.
I know what mine was bigcat5698 at AOL.com.
Bigcat5698. All right, I'll start calling you Big Cat.
Yeah.
Big Cat what?
Oh, wait, that might be taken.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, bigcat5698 at AOL.com.
I have no idea. No idea what mine was at AOL.com. When I see somebody, they send me an AOL.com email address, I'm like, Really? What's the other ones that are like all but gone?
Alta Vista. I wish Outlook was.
No, I'm talking about like Outlook.net.
Netscape.
Yeah.
And Netscape. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that was. Yeah, there's a lot. I do think I'm glad that all these companies, like the cable companies, for a while you get a free email address, and I think they learned that like you can just go to Gmail or any of these other free ones, and you can be myname1@thisthing.com as opposed to my first initial, the first 3 letters of my last name, random 5 digits that you assign me at earth.link.net.
Earthlink.net, I think was one. Yeah. All right, so there we are. Good one on the wheel. Thank you very much, Andrew, for putting that together. And I know that's just random, the questions that pop up. All right, what do we do here? Quizzes.
Yes.
On March the 18th, 1990, which number 11 seed scored 149 points to honor Hank Gathers against defending champion Michigan? And that would be the top team. No reason to go any deeper.
Yep, Loyola Marymount. He didn't play for any of those teams.
Paul Westhead was the head coach. Used to be with the Lakers.
But what if the transfer portal was
then
there in 1990?
Then it would be
Troy.
For
like 3 of them, right?
Then he'd probably been. I would have said, well, UNLV back then. That's probably where he would have gone, because that was the ones that would have. I mean, they were already NILing at UNLV in 1990 pretty heavy.
Hey, that's not very nice to talk about a dead man and Jerry Tarkanian that
Jerry
way.
Tarkanian.
So who was Hank Gathers was the star, but it was the guard that was really good too. Do you guys remember?
Bo Kimball?
Bo Kimball. That's it.
Bo Kimball.
Yep.
Yes, so it was Loyola Marymount. We know this, right?
Shot a free throw left-handed to honor him. All right.
Yep.
There it is.
There we go. Bo Kimball.
And there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I'm glad I remembered that. So. All right, let's go to the next one.
Craig, you got to let
this
Craig
is
do
easy,
one.
but Mankind, Cactus Jack, and Dude Love. Which persona did he create first as a teenager before going pro?
It was Dude Love. That's what he did as a young man. There's old VHS tape that they actually used to build some of his storylines where they showed like the old home footage of him jumping off of his roof onto like a flimsy mattress pad.
I remember
and that's
those,
when you got an idea of where his hardcore style and all that would sort of originate from. But yeah, it's Dude Love.
Yeah.
Hey, Andrew, just a suggestion. If you're going to do anything with WWE or whatever, we're going to get it right, most likely.
We'll see. Long before the hardcore legend was born, a teenage Mick Foley filmed home movies as the groovy, hip-shaking Dude Love. Though he found fame as the brutal Cactus Jack and the tortured Mankind, he finally got to live out his childhood dream when the Dude officially debuted in WWE in 1997. So yeah, that was a great way to bring in like real life and again show some of those VHS, which I'm sure you can look up on YouTube now. And yeah, I like the way you described all of that, Andrew. Wherever you put that together. That's a good summarization.
He's still around?
He's around. He's I think he recently got like a new hip not too long ago, so he's actually capable of like walking somewhat normally now, and he's very opinionated on Twitter, I hear. I don't follow him.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But I think he'll get political on you and stuff, and so he's doing like conventions and just being an old retired wrestler.
I always thought he was very funny. I always like
he wrote some of the his first book. He ended up writing several books, but his first wrestling autobiography book was incredibly good. It was really, really good, and I enjoyed it thoroughly to the point where he went on to write more books, and he wrote children's books, and he had a flair for that.
I think there are certain people, and he was obviously he's more in like the fan favorite category or whatever. I think than if you put like The Rock or Hogan or Andre the Giant or those guys that are kind of legendary for their prowess on certain things or their athletic form or whatever you want to call it. He just got what it's supposed to be. I think that was the thing about Mick Foley. He completely understood what this whole thing was supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where he did a lot of damage to himself, and he did too much in his career to where he really beat himself up. But he is responsible for some of the most incredibly, like, jaw-dropping moments. Getting thrown off the top of the cell, if you have it through the table, is one of the all-time legendary wrestling viral moments, even though there wasn't virality back then. But had it happened in, like, this day and age, it would have been just all over the place. But, yeah, him getting thrown off he did some of the craziest stuff, and I'm sure he regretted some of it.
I can't imagine how many concussions he had, or staples, or stitches, or whatever. Just a maniac. But like, what's funny about that is he's doing barbed wire, like legit barbed wire and flames and like that kind of stuff. And then he's like the nicest guy you've ever met. It's just weird how that kind of works out. And his book, Have a Nice Day, is a really good book.
I remember the match when he faced Vader.
No, you don't. But
in
that's
the
the one
Texas
where
death match.
No, you don't.
Brutal.
But that is one of his matchups with Raider, where he got part of his ear ripped off because he intentionally got his head like caught in the ropes. That whole gag where you're like in the ropes, but because of the way the ropes were, I believe there's metal cable wrapped in like tape, and he got caught to where it ripped like part of his ear off.
Mike Tyson was close by.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Craig nailed that before the question was even finished.
Mike Tyson what?
Was nearby.
Was nearby because he bit off Evander Holyfield's ear.
No.
Well, I go ahead, Paul. I know what I answered.
Who needs a ring the most? Connor McDavid, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Judge, or Josh Allen? This is
Bryce Harper.
I said Josh Allen. I think his pressure is much higher than Lamar Jackson, who of course has been knocking on the door too.
I think they live in the same sphere.
Yeah, I don't think there's much difference. Actually.
Yeah, I think that if do you remember the Tom and Jerry cartoon where they like clock in and clock out?
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, how you doing? Like, that's how I think of that little room of the quarterbacks that really need a Super Bowl, that no matter who's come and gone, that so far the last 6-7 years, it's been Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
So who would you pick among all the other ones then?
I would say, look, I think Aaron Judge needs one, because when you are the center fielder for the New York Yankees and you're setting all these records now, nothing bad that happens with the Yankees is Aaron Judge's fault. Nothing bad.
He's also still pretty damn young.
Yeah, but I do think, like, just because it's the Yankees, and Connor McDavid not only needs a ring, but the whole country of Canada, the whole nation, needs one really bad.
How long has it been for an NHL hockey team to win the Stanley Cup?
Since 1992, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like when the Maple
and then he
Leafs
lost the
won.
Olympic medal too, and that was a killer.
Well, we got the Four Nations, so there was that. But I'd say probably just based on kind of how people speak. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on all of these guys. But I would say I do think Josh Allen has like the biggest sort of pressurized target on his back, because they've been so close. And for some reason, it is treated a little bit more like this has to happen than with Lamar Jackson. I don't know why that is exactly.
Because the Ravens have won Super Bowls before.
That's fair,
as a team.
Well,
so
they got their coach.
So the Bills have won nothing.
So the Bills have never won. The Ravens fans at least have that to fall back on. It's two different Super Bowls.
That's a good point.
So they don't really have to pressure Lamar Jackson that much, because they can trust in the process, because they know it's happened before. So I think they have a little bit more faith, although I'm sure it's waning from time to time. Where Bills fans have nothing but trauma.
No, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. Okay. Next one.
That it? Okay.
Okay. What are you most excited about for the NBA expansion? Return of the Sonics ran away with this. New expansion draft at the end. Actually, that's the thing I'll enjoy the most, because those things fascinate me. Conference realignment at 17%. Vegas' first NBA team. I think maybe the luster of Vegas is worn off for a lot of people nationwide.
Yes. You don't need it, man. Like if your driving force to going to Vegas isn't the shows, it was like the gambling and stuff. Like, yeah, you still got to go there to gamble for the most part, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, you can place your sports bets on your phone and not have to travel all the way there to put down your Super Bowl pick for the upcoming year. I think that's taken a hit. I think the economy is just over time is just not thriving to where Vegas then therefore thrives as well, because everybody's got so much extra money. So now I'd imagine it's probably not great. I think too is like it was unique when they were the Outlaws. They're not the Outlaws anymore. They've got everything. The only thing they don't have is they're about to get it. They're about to get the NBA team. They've got all the sports now.
I'm happy for them. It's a great place to. But you're right. I think there's a little bit of.
But Vegas had an outlaw fact. There's no outlaw to it. All of it's legal now. So I'm not really all that. I guess I'm not all that excited for that. I mean, return of the Sonics is my answer here.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating that conference realignment, even the NBA, is a bigger choice than Vegas getting their first team, although it's not quite as dramatic as the college football conference realignment. Like, that's still something that just people are interested in, clearly. So, yeah, is Minnesota going over to the East, or how do they handle that?
I looked at Minnesota's farther away from L.A. than Memphis and New Orleans, but they're not further east. How can that be?
Because they're so far north.
Nah, you got to take it a little extra. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think you need to look at a map because sometimes
I did.
you get kind of in
it
your.
was very very close, but that Minneapolis.
But they're also grouped there with a bunch of other teams that are all in that vicinity that are like you could go play Milwaukee or go play Chicago or go play those types of teams.
Cleveland, etc.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they flipped a coin between it was Minnesota and then they flip a coin between Memphis and New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see New Orleans doing that too. But, yeah, I think it's going to be cool for the West Coast fans to have Vegas and have Seattle and then have the LAs and Golden State. That's going to be Portland, Phoenix. Like, that's going to be pretty cool. That's very, very Western-y for sure. But, yeah, Return of the Sonics, like that's – I wonder how they do the uniforms and just all that comes with that. But that's going to be a really special scene when
they're going to be like lime green or green, do you think, the Sonics?
I don't know.
I haven't seen their logo, yeah.
That's what we'll see. But, expansion draft, that'll be somewhat intriguing, but yeah, that'd probably be my last choice as well.
What will be interesting is that when they draft 29-30, I guess, is how much more will they get as an expansion team than others get? Because sometimes leagues set that up, and it's honey.
Well, yeah, and I mean,
Las Vegas Golden Knights won a Stanley Cup 2 year or however quickly that was because they had such a successful expansion.
And that's why both Carolina and Jacksonville in the NFL immediately won. Remember they had those compensation, whatever.
Yeah, they did. The thing about and this will be more similar to the hockey because you don't need as big of a roster, but that expansion draft, if you're smart about it, what the Knights did was they drafted everybody, like the best player everybody put up was like a guy on the second line. And so they took all their lines were the same. So that's why it was challenging is where they got you is when you put out that other line, that was maybe a little bit less than they were all basically the same. Okay. It was a pretty brilliant strategy.
A lot of votes for that one, Andrew. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Like I always am fascinated by expansion, and whenever leagues decide to go to new markets or return to old markets, and it'd be wild when I did read where. I don't know if this is true or not because I didn't delve for it, but I believe the Thunder are going to say, like, here's your history.
Yeah, I
think
back.
So. Yeah,
so
that's cool, unlike the Titans and the Oilers where –
these owners don't care. They bought the team, they moved it. It's not like, Bud Adams and now the Adams family has – look, you've seen the Titans' new uniforms. It's totally a middle finger to Houston. So.
And I don't think they're that great, honestly. I think there's some parts about it that I like kind of, but I don't think those uniforms are – I think the uniforms in the NFL have really kind of sucked for a while now. I think Nike's done a terrible job in designing a lot of them, and that one there's parts I liked, but I also was like, God, that should be so much better than it is, especially since you're trying to do so much Oilery stuff to this. But – I'll be curious, like, what does the Las Vegas team name itself, and what colors do they use? Like, I'm into that kind of thing. So, yeah, this NBA expansion will be entertaining and interesting.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Andrew Valet. Thank you to Rez and Garrett Ross as well, plus our great sponsors, Everyday 365 Sports, and you. I know the cough button was too far away. Those of you who watch us, digest us, and also promote us, thank you very much for what you do. For Paul Catalina and for Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. We'll see you tomorrow at 3. This is 365 Sports. Good night.